You may have come to this night tired in a way that sleep alone has not been able to cure. Not merely tired in the body, but tired of effort that seems to circle back upon itself. Tired of making plans and then watching circumstances ignore them. Tired of praying with sincerity and waking to the same unanswered room. Tired of trying to remain hopeful while some quiet part of you still prepares for disappointment. Perhaps you have told yourself to be patient. Perhaps you have promised that tomorrow you would think differently, speak differently, believe more deeply. Perhaps you have disciplined the face while the heart remained afraid. You have said the right words, made the proper effort, and waited for life to reward your perseverance. Yet the same question returns when the house is still and no one is near enough to hear it. Why does the world keep giving me the same answer? Tonight, I will not answer you with excitement. I will not ask you to expect a spectacle by morning, nor will I place your faith upon a date, a clock, or a dramatic sign. I offer you something more useful. Before sleep carries you beyond these words, you may understand why the answer has repeated, and how another instruction may be given without pleading, strain, or force. You have not been ignored. The world has not stood against you like an enemy guarding a gate. It has been answering with extraordinary fidelity. It has answered not only the desire you announced, but the state from which the desire was announced. It has answered the hidden posture beneath the prayer, the expectation beneath the hope, and the identity beneath the words. This is why a man may ask for freedom while feeling himself imprisoned, and receive another day shaped by confinement. This is why a woman may ask to be loved while listening inwardly for the sound of departure, and find fresh reasons to fear abandonment. The request moves in one direction, while identity moves in another, and life, obedient to identity, returns the deeper command. So hear me carefully. You do not force the universe by shouting at it. You force a response by becoming inwardly unavailable to every answer except the state you have accepted. This force is not violence. It is not tension. It is not the clenched hand of one trying to overpower life. It is the quiet inevitability of a cause that has become settled. When the inner position no longer asks permission from appearances, the outer answer must begin to change. Before you drift any farther, make one small outward gesture that agrees with the inward work beginning tonight. Subscribe to this channel, not as a casual habit, but as a quiet mark of decision. Let that simple action mean, I am willing to return until the new state becomes more familiar than the old struggle. Each return can deepen what is planted here, not through pressure, but through remembrance. Subscribe now, then release the gesture completely, and come back with me to the stillness within. Now let the outer action disappear from your attention. It is complete. Return to the question that has followed you into the dark. Why has life continued to give the same answer? Consider the possibility that life has not been answering the words spoken occasionally. It has been answering the position occupied habitually. The words may have said, I am ready for prosperity, while the position said, I must prepare for another loss. The prayer may have said, bring me companionship, while the position said, no one truly remains. The mouth may have asked for opportunity, while the inner self remains certain that recognition belonged to others. Life hears the total statement, not merely the sentence. The total statement is the identity, the expectation, the inner conversation, and the feeling of what is natural to you. You may stand before a closed door and say, I know it will open, while every part of you remains prepared to turn away. The spoken words face the door, but the emotional body is already walking back down the road. Which instruction is deeper? The deeper instruction is the one you inhabit. The world does not punish you for this contradiction. It simply reflects the state that possesses the greater naturalness. And naturalness is rarely measured by the volume of your words. It is measured by what you expect when you are no longer performing faith. What do you expect in the quiet? What do you anticipate before a letter is opened? What meaning do you give to another person's silence? What do you imagine when tomorrow appears in the mind? What do you feel when you think of receiving more than you have known before? There, in the unguarded answer, you find the instruction you have been issuing. Do not become afraid of this discovery. I do not tell you these things so that you will condemn yourself for every fearful thought. A passing thought is not a sentence of destiny. A moment of sadness does not become eternal law. You are not required to police the mind with nervous vigilance. I tell you so that authority may return to its proper place. If the repeated answer comes from a repeated state, then you are not helpless before the answer. You may leave the state. You may cease to identify with it. You may give another instruction. This is the beginning of freedom. For if your life were controlled by a distant power whose decision could not be known, you would be a beggar forever. You would wait for favor, search for signs, and fear that another person had been chosen in your place. But if experience reflects states of consciousness, then the point of transformation is available now. You do not need to travel anywhere to find it. You do not need another person to surrender it. You do not need the calendar to grant it. The point is the quiet awareness within you that says, I am. From that point, states are accepted. From states, worlds appear. Tonight, however, I will not ask you to master the whole mystery at once. The mind has already carried too much. It has tried to understand, control, and arrange every detail. Let it become simpler. Before this night deepens, I will place a short declaration within your hearing. It will not be a charm. It will not be a bargain with life. It will not be a sentence to repeat anxiously while fear remains upon the throne. It will be a decree of inner completion. But I will not give it to you yet. A seed placed upon unprepared ground may be lost among thorns. A word placed in an anxious mind may be turned into another instrument of struggle. You may repeat it as one who hopes, when it must be spoken as one who recognizes. So first, I would have you understand the difference between command and pleading. Pleading begins with absence. It looks outward and says, please change so that I may feel different. Command begins with identity. It turns inward and says, I accept the state, and therefore I no longer request the old answer. Pleading asks the mirror to smile. Command changes the face. Pleading watches the shadow. Command moves the substance. Pleading measures time. Command occupies being. When I use the word command, do not imagine harshness. The deepest command may be almost silent. It carries authority, because it does not argue. The sun does not persuade the dawn. The seed does not negotiate with the earth. A law does not raise its voice. It operates. The authority I speak of is the authority of the accepted state. When a state is truly accepted, it ceases to feel like a request. It becomes the place from which the mind naturally looks. You may have experienced this already in unwanted ways. When a person feels rejected, they do not need to repeat, I am rejected, every hour. They look from rejection. A delayed reply becomes proof. A distracted face becomes proof. Another person's private mood becomes proof. The state interprets the world. When a person feels poor, they need not consciously affirm poverty. Every expense becomes danger. Another person's prosperity becomes distance. An opportunity is dismissed before it can be considered. A gift may even create discomfort, because receiving contradicts the identity of struggle. Again, the state interprets. The outer answer seems independent, yet it has been filtered and shaped through the inner position. Now imagine the reverse. Imagine that support becomes natural. A delay no longer immediately means abandonment. An expense no longer becomes prophecy. A closed door no longer names you unworthy. Help can be received without shame. An idea can be explored without predicting failure. The same world begins to reveal different possibilities because another self is meeting it. This is not merely positive thinking. Positive thinking often stands outside the state and attempts to decorate the old identity with pleasant sentences. I speak of entering another identity so deeply that the sentences arise naturally from it. The old identity says, I hope life responds. The new identity rests in the knowledge that response is already lawful. The old identity says, perhaps I will be supported. The new identity feels supported before the visible channel is named. The old identity says, one day I will be free. The new identity no longer uses the present moment to rehearse imprisonment. You need not become this new identity through force tonight. You need only become available to it. Availability is softer than effort. A window does not create the wind, it opens. A room does not manufacture light, it removes the curtain. A hand does not force a gift into existence, it ceases to remain closed. This is the work of the night. Not to produce the entire outer result through mental strain, but to become inwardly open to the state whose expression is the result. You may be listening with a particular burden in mind. Perhaps it concerns money. Perhaps there is a letter you fear opening, an obligation you do not yet know how to meet, or a sum that seems too large for your present means. I will not tell you to deny the paper upon the table. I will not ask you to pretend that arithmetic has vanished. I ask you to notice what you have called yourself in relation to it. Have you become the one who is trapped? Have you become the one for whom there is never enough? Have you become the one who expects each solution to be followed by another crisis? The paper is an object. The identity is a state. And the state, not the paper, is the cause we address tonight. Perhaps your burden concerns another person. The room may be quiet because someone withdrew. Words that once felt warm may now feel distant. You may have spent hours wondering what they think, what they feel, whether they remember, whether they will return. I will not teach you to overpower another person's body or compel affection through desperation. I will lead you away from the identity that asks another to create your worth. For the one who is inwardly loved does not interpret every silence as exile. The one who is inwardly chosen does not spend the night proving that they exist. The one who knows belonging does not approach love as a court in which worth must continually be defended. The outer relationship may change in ways you cannot yet see, but the first response must occur where your relation to love is formed, within. Perhaps your burden has no simple name. Perhaps you are merely tired of being the person who carries too much. Others turn to you. Responsibilities gather. You remain composed while something within asks when you will be allowed to rest. You may have mistaken tension for responsibility. You may believe that if you stop worrying, something important will be neglected. But worry is not wisdom. Tension is not devotion. Fear is not preparation. You may act wisely without worshipping anxiety. You may care deeply without making yourself the dwelling place of every possible disaster. Tonight, life will continue while you rest. The heart continues. The breath continues. The earth moves without your supervision. Let this teach you that the hidden power does not require constant interference. You have tried to manage the shadow. Now we turn toward the light. You may ask, Neville, what exactly must I change? Do not begin with the entire world. Begin with the answer you expect. If the desire were fulfilled, what answer would life be giving you? Would life be saying, you are supported? Would it be saying, there is room for you? Would it be saying, you are safe to receive? Would it be saying, you belong? Would it be saying, the matter is no longer yours to carry in fear? Choose the essence of the answer. Do not strain over its form. The conscious mind may demand names, dates, numbers, and methods. But beneath the details, every desire contains an emotional conclusion. The house means belonging. The money means supply. The embrace means love. The journey means freedom. The letter means acceptance. The healing means wholeness. The open door means possibility. We will begin with the conclusion and allow the form to follow. This is why the decree I will later give you must be simple. It cannot contain the whole bridge. It need not describe the mechanism. It must carry the quality of a matter inwardly settled. When something is settled, you do not continue pleading. You do not continue presenting evidence. You do not continue standing before the judge. You leave the courtroom. Many have never left the courtroom of consciousness. All day they argue for the desire, and all night they present evidence against it. They say, I can be prosperous, but look at my history. I can be loved, but remember who left. I can be free, but consider my age. I can change, but see how many times I failed. The trial continues. The old state calls another witness. The past enters and testifies. The senses enter and testify. Fear enters and speaks with great confidence. Then the exhausted person says, Perhaps tomorrow I will have more faith. Tomorrow, the trial begins again. Tonight, we will begin preparing for the verdict. A verdict does not need to answer every witness. It closes the case. The decree will be such a verdict. But before it can be spoken with truth, you must understand that the verdict concerns your state, not the manipulation of events. You are not declaring that another person must play a particular part by morning. You are declaring who you are in relation to love. You are not declaring that money must fall from the sky. You are declaring who you are in relation to supply. You are not commanding every circumstance to become easy. You are declaring that circumstances no longer possess the authority to name you powerless. This is the inner shift from which response proceeds. The title of this night may speak of forcing the universe to respond. Let us give those words their true dignity. You force response when contradiction is removed. You force response when the inner request and the inner identity become one. You force response when you no longer ask for freedom while rehearsing imprisonment. You force response when you no longer ask for love while preparing for abandonment. You force response when you no longer ask for supply while feeling loyal to lack. You force response when consciousness becomes single. A divided house produces divided experience. One room says yes, another says no. One voice asks, another cancels. One image shows fulfillment, another predicts loss. Then the person wonders why the world appears uncertain. Life is revealing the division. Your task is not to attack the doubtful part. Violence within only creates another division. Your task is to bring the frightened part into the atmosphere of safety. You may say inwardly, I understand why you expected the old answer. You saw disappointment. You learned caution. You believed vigilance would protect us. But tonight, you may rest. We are not required to predict the old ending. This tenderness is more powerful than self-condemnation. The old state did not form because you were foolish. It formed because conclusions were repeated until they became familiar. Perhaps they were inherited from parents who feared for you. Perhaps they arose from events you did not know how to interpret. Perhaps they were strengthened by years of looking at effects and calling them causes. Do not punish yourself for learning the old language. Learn another. The decree to come will be part of that language, but the words alone are not enough. You must learn the feeling from which they are spoken. Consider the way you say, the day is over. There is no argument. You do not plead with the day to end. You recognize that it is complete. Consider the way you say, the door is closed, after you have turned the key. You do not repeat the sentence 100 times to persuade yourself. The physical act has given you certainty. Tonight, imagination will become the inner act that gives certainty. Not perfect certainty, not theatrical certainty. A small sense of finality is enough. The breath may deepen, the shoulders may lower, a question may stop for a moment. In that moment, a new answer enters. Do not underestimate one moment free from the old instruction. If you have spent years expecting loss, one sincere breath of being supported is a new event in consciousness. If you have spent years waiting for rejection, one moment of inward belonging is a break in the pattern. If you have carried tomorrow in fear, one night of letting tomorrow remain unknown is an act of freedom. The outer world may not yet applaud these movements. It does not need to. The cause has begun to change before the effect announces it. A bell is struck, and only afterward does the sound travel through the hall. The inner act is the strike. The outer response is the traveling sound. You do not need to chase the sound. You need to strike clearly. Later, I will give you the phrase through which the strike may be made gently. It will contain no begging. It will contain no future promise. It will ask nothing of the world. It will declare the condition within. Then it will leave response to the law. Until then, let the preparation continue. Ask yourself quietly, without demanding an immediate answer, what old response have I been emotionally expecting? Perhaps the answer is disappointment, perhaps delay, perhaps being overlooked, perhaps conflict, perhaps another demand upon resources already stretched. Perhaps the feeling that no matter what you do, you return to the same place. Let the answer appear. Do not become it. Observe it. That was the instruction. not your eternal truth. An instruction can be withdrawn, a state can be vacated, a pattern can lose its source. You are not looking upon a life sentence. You are looking upon a message repeated so often that it seemed like fate. Now imagine the old instruction written upon a sheet of paper. You do not need to read every word. You know its tone. It may say, prepare for less. It may say, remain alert. It may say, good does not remain. It may say, you must struggle alone. Notice that it is only a sheet. It is not your skin. It is not your name. It is not God. You may place it down. No ceremony is needed. No anger is required. The instruction served the state that produced it. You are preparing another state. Let the old paper remain upon the table while you move away from it inwardly. The mind may try to pick it up again. Habit does this. Do not scold the mind. Say gently, that is yesterday's order. It is no longer the order I carry into sleep. You do not yet need the exact new words. Feel first the absence of the old command. What would it feel like not to predict disappointment tonight? Not to predict success. Simply not to predict disappointment. There is space in that. What would it feel like not to prepare for abandonment? Not to force another person's return. Simply to stop preparing for abandonment. There is warmth in that. What would it feel like not to assume that every resource must disappear? Not to force sudden riches. Simply to cease calling loss inevitable. There is openness in that. Freedom often begins before fulfillment, as the withdrawal of the old conclusion. You stop saying no before you learn to say yes naturally. The door becomes unlocked before you walk through it. Tonight, we unlock. The decree will later show you how to enter. You may wonder whether the universe understands words. The word universe is often used carelessly, as though some vast being were sitting outside you, examining requests and selecting which shall be granted. I use it here to speak of the total field of experience, the people, events, opportunities, reactions, and arrangements through which your state becomes visible. This field does not need to be convinced. It must correspond. A shadow must correspond to the object casting it. An echo must correspond to the sound. A reflection must correspond to the face before the glass. The outer field responds because response is its nature. The real question is not, will life respond? Life is already responding. The question is, to which state are you asking it to respond? The frightened state? The waiting state? The one who feels forgotten? The one who assumes that everything valuable belongs beyond reach? Or the one who has become inwardly settled? This is why forcing the universe is a misleading phrase when heard through the old identity. The old identity imagines pushing harder. The new understanding means ceasing to move inwardly between opposing states. One state, one conclusion, one quiet emotional home. There is the force. A river cuts through stone, not because one drop is violent, but because the direction remains. You do not need emotional violence. You need direction. Tonight, we begin turning the current. You may still feel doubt. Let doubt travel beside you for a while. The river does not stop because a leaf rests upon its surface. You may still remember failure. Let memory appear without becoming destination. The river does not reverse because it passes an old tree. You may still hear the senses reporting the former world. Let them report. The river knows its direction. Your new direction may begin as nothing more than willingness. I am willing to stop asking the world for permission. Let that thought enter. I am willing to stop asking the world whether I may be supported. I am willing to stop asking the past whether I may become new. I am willing to stop asking another person whether I possess worth. I am willing to stop asking appearances whether imagination is allowed to choose. Willingness is not complete occupancy, but it opens the gate. Do not despise the gate because you have not yet crossed the whole landscape. The gate is enough for this moment. Perhaps some part of you says, but the facts are real. Yes, the facts are real as present appearances. I do not ask you to stumble blindly through the world. Attend to responsibilities. Use wisdom. Take necessary action. Seek sound assistance where assistance is required. But do not turn the fact into identity. A debt may be real as an obligation. It need not become, I am permanently poor. A separation may be real as a present circumstance. It need not become, I am unlovable. A delay may be real as an interval. It need not become, life has forgotten me. A diagnosis may be real as information to address wisely. It need not become the total name of awareness. You observe the fact. You choose the state. This distinction allows practical action without psychological slavery. The person acting as permanently defeated makes different choices from the person addressing a difficulty while remaining inwardly supported. One sees only walls. The other may notice a door. One refuses help from shame. The other receives assistance as part of the answer. One becomes paralyzed by the size of the problem. The other takes the natural step without making the step the source of power. The state does not replace wise action. It reorganizes the one who acts. You are preparing that person tonight, the one who no longer acts merely to escape fear. The one who moves because the fulfilled state has begun to express itself. The one who can rest before every bridge is visible. The one who does not call uncertainty abandonment. That person is not far away in time. It is a state available in awareness. You may touch it now, for one breath. How would that person hear these words? Would they listen anxiously, afraid to miss the secret? Or would they rest, knowing that what belongs to them can be received gently? Would they hold the body tightly? Or would the body be permitted to soften? Would they demand the decree immediately? Or would they understand that preparation is part of receiving? Become that listener for a moment. You do not need to seize every sentence. The essential meaning will remain. The world has not resisted you. It has answered the state repeatedly occupied. Another state may be occupied. Another answer must follow. That is enough. Let it become simple. The former answer was not punishment. It was correspondence. The new answer will not be luck. It will be correspondence. You are not persuading a reluctant universe. You are changing the instruction. And the instruction changes when identity changes. Before you drift any farther, make one small outward gesture that agrees with the inward work beginning tonight. Subscribe to this channel, not as a casual habit, but as a quiet mark of decision. Let that simple action mean, I am willing to return until the new state becomes more familiar than the old struggle. Each return can deepen what is planted here, not through pressure, but through remembrance. Subscribe now, then release the gesture completely, and come back with me to the stillness within. Now it is done. Return once more. No outward action remains. Only awareness. Only the quiet room. Only the question becoming less urgent. Perhaps you do not need to ask why life gave the old answer anymore. Perhaps you can see that the answer was faithful to an instruction hidden within habit. And if the instruction was learned, it may be changed. This is the relief I offer you before any outer circumstance moves. You are not cursed. You are not forgotten. You are not waiting for a power outside you to become merciful. You have been living from a state. And because a state is not the whole of you, you may leave it. Do not try to leave all at once. For this moment, stop naming it I. The fear may be present, but fear is not I. The uncertainty may be present, but uncertainty is not I. The old expectation may be present, but expectation is not I. You are aware of these states. Therefore, awareness is greater than them. Rest in the greater awareness. You may hear within yourself, I am. Do not complete it yet. Do not say, I am prosperous. Do not say, I am loved. Do not say, I am free. Not yet. Let the simple awareness stand without clothing. I am. Before the former answer, I am. Before the request, I am. Before the problem acquired a name, I am. Before the world told me what seemed possible, I am. This is the place from which the new instruction will later be spoken. Not from desperation, from being. Feel the difference between speaking from the problem and speaking from awareness. The problem says, change this or I cannot rest. Awareness says, I may choose the state before the problem changes. The problem says, prove that I am supported. Awareness says, support is a state I may begin to inhabit. The problem says, give me the result, and then I will believe. Awareness says, the inner acceptance is the beginning of the result. This is the inversion that changes everything. Most men wait for the shadow to move before moving the object. They wait for the mirror to smile before changing the face. They wait for the echo to speak differently before changing the sound. Then they call life stubborn. Life is not stubborn, it is exact. Do not fear exactness. Exactness is your assurance. If the outer world were truly random, your imaginal acts would possess no lawful meaning. But if experience corresponds to states, then every sincere change of state begins a change in correspondence. You need not beg exactness. You rely upon it. The old state produced its likeness. The new state will produce its likeness. The only question is whether you are willing to cease worshipping the old likeness as cause. The bank balance is not the cause of your identity. The silence is not the cause of your identity. The delay is not the cause of your identity. They may influence thought when unconsciously accepted, but they do not possess authority over awareness, unless awareness yields its name to them. Tonight, reclaim the name, not through a grand declaration, through separation. This is a circumstance. This is not I. This is a feeling. This is not I. This is an echo. This is not I. I am the one who hears. I am the one who chooses what shall be repeated. The decree I will give you later will arise from this authority. You may be tempted to create your own phrase now. Let the mind rest. There will be time. For the moment, understand what the phrase must accomplish. It must not beg the outer field to become different. It must announce that the inner matter is settled. Once settled within, life responds. Not necessarily through the route you planned. Not necessarily through drama. Not necessarily within the hour demanded by fear. But response begins because the cause has moved. The first response may be your own breath becoming easier. Do not call that insignificant. The one who asked has changed position. The first response may be a thought of possibility where none existed before. Do not dismiss it. A different state is perceiving. The first response may be a natural impulse to write, speak, rest, inquire, or step away. Do not worship the impulse, but do not overlook it because it seems ordinary. The bridge often speaks through ordinary movement. The first response may simply be sleep. After months of carrying fear into the night, the body releases. Sleep itself becomes evidence that the inner war has paused. That pause is not the final harvest. It is the field becoming receptive. Let this night begin with that. Not a promise of spectacle, a promise of understanding. Before you sleep, you will know that the world's answer is not independent of the one who asks. You will know that a request made from contradiction cannot feel complete. You will know that force means inward consistency, not aggression. You will know that a short decree can close the old argument when it is spoken from the proper state, and you will begin preparing that state. Nothing more is required at this point. Do not solve the desire. Do not imagine every detail. Do not force gratitude. Do not demand peace. Simply stop asking the outer world for permission to become inwardly different. You may become calm before circumstances approve. You may become supported in feeling before the channel appears. You may become loved in consciousness before another voice confirms it. You may become free within before the road is visible. This is not pretending. It is choosing cause before effect. The world trained you to live from effects. You saw the empty chair and felt alone. You saw the number and felt poor. You saw the closed door and felt excluded. You saw the passing years and felt late. Tonight, you begin learning to live from cause. You choose the inner atmosphere and allow the visible field to follow. The old habit may object. Let it. It has spoken for years. It does not need one more argument. You are not trying to silence it violently. You are letting another voice become more natural. The voice of quiet authority. The voice that does not say, "Universe, please hear me." It says, "I have heard myself." The voice that does not say, "Life, tell me who I am." It says, "I know the state I choose." The voice that does not say, "Prove that I may rest." It says, "I rest because the inner work has begun." This voice will later speak the decree. For now, let it be felt as presence. A presence that is not hurried. A presence that is not begging. a presence that is willing to remain even while the old echo completes itself. That presence is already within you. It is the awareness listening now. The same awareness that witnessed every former state without being destroyed by any of them. You survived the state of fear because you were greater than fear. You observed loss because you were greater than the moment of loss. You remember the past because you are not confined within the past. Awareness remains, and what remains may choose. Let the body begin to understand this before the mind does. The forehead may soften because it no longer carries the duty of predicting. The jaw may release because no argument is required. The shoulders may descend because tomorrow is not held there. The chest may open slightly because the world is not approaching as an enemy. The hands may rest because the answer is not seized through force. You are preparing to listen differently, not as a beggar waiting to receive a secret from a distant master. As awareness remembering a law already operating through you. The law does not begin tonight. You begin using it consciously tonight. It has operated in every assumption you accepted. It operated when fear seemed natural. It operated when disappointment seemed inevitable. It operated when the old story felt like fact. The same law can express another state. This is why there is no reason to hate the law, for the former answer. The law was faithful. Its faithfulness is your hope now. If it reproduced limitation with precision, it can reproduce freedom with the same precision. If it reflected abandonment, it can reflect belonging. If it echoed strain, it can echo completion. The law has not chosen against you. It has waited upon your inward consent. Tonight, your consent begins to change. Perhaps it is not complete. It does not need to be complete yet. A door opening slightly is no longer closed. A sentence questioned is no longer absolute. A state seen as a state is no longer the whole self. You have already begun. Let the question, why does life keep giving me the same answer, become another question now. What answer am I ready to make natural within myself? Do not force a verbal reply. Let the question move gently beneath consciousness. Perhaps the answer will be peace, perhaps support, perhaps love, perhaps freedom, perhaps simply enough. Enough struggle, enough waiting for permission, enough making the past the authority, enough asking the mirror to change first. Feel the dignity of enough, not anger, completion. A chapter does not close because it is hated. It closes because it has said what it came to say. The chapter of asking the outer world for permission may close tonight, not because every outer condition has changed, because you have discovered that permission was never stored there. It was within the acceptance of being. I am. From this, a new state will be chosen. From the new state, a decree will be spoken. From the decree, rest will follow. From rest, response will unfold. You do not need to rush ahead. Remain here. The foundation is being laid. The world has been answering. Now you will learn to give it another state to answer. You will not shout. You will not threaten. You will not plead. You will become inwardly unavailable to the old response. And when the old response finds no one within you willing to call it home, it cannot continue indefinitely as your world. Let that truth accompany you deeper into the night. You are not fighting life. You are ending contradiction. You are not forcing a reluctant universe. You are preparing a state whose reflection is inevitable. You are not waiting for permission. You are returning to the source from which all permission was first given. I am. Rest there for now. The decree will come when the ground is ready. The words will be few. The feeling will be quiet. And the answer will begin not in the distant world, but in the one who no longer asks the world to decide what they are allowed to become. You may fall asleep before I finish, and if you do, nothing has been lost. You are not required to follow every sentence into its conclusion. You are not sitting for an examination. No one will ask you in the morning to repeat what you heard, to explain the law, or to prove that you understood every distinction I made. You may listen for a few moments and then drift. You may hear one phrase clearly, and let the next dissolve into sound. You may move between waking and sleep so gently that you cannot tell where attention ended and dreaming began. All of this is welcome. The teaching is not weakened because the conscious mind releases it. A melody may remain within you even when you cannot recall every note. The atmosphere of a room may affect you before you have named a single object within it. A kind voice may bring comfort, even when the words themselves have become indistinct. In the same way, you need not grasp every word I speak. Let the tone carry what the mind is too tired to hold. You have held enough. You have held the day together. You have held conversations in the mind long after the voices became silent. You have held responsibilities before they arrived and disappointments after they passed. You have held tomorrow as though it were a weight that must be carried through the night. Now you may release the habit of holding. You are not listening in order to work harder. You are listening so that effort may finally release its hold. Let that thought move through you without demanding agreement. You are not listening in order to work harder. You are listening so that effort may finally release its hold. There is nothing you must force into memory. The deeper part of you does not require a lecture to be memorized. It responds to the feeling beneath the words, to the quiet direction of the imagination, to the emotional climate in which you rest. The conscious mind may count, compare, question, and analyze. It likes to take every idea apart and inspect it. It asks whether you are doing this correctly, whether you are relaxed enough, whether you believe enough, whether the night will produce the result you desire. Let that mind become tired. It has served you throughout the day. It has measured distances, remembered obligations, interpreted faces, and tried to protect you from uncertainty. You need not punish it for being active. Simply tell it, gently, you may rest now. You do not have to solve this teaching. You do not have to solve your life before sleep. You do not have to solve tomorrow before tomorrow comes. The mind may set down its instruments. The inner work of this night does not depend upon constant conscious effort. A seed does not need the gardener to remain awake beside it. The soil receives it in silence. The darkness covers it. The hidden pattern begins its work without being watched. Let these words become seeds rather than instructions you must struggle to obey. A seed does not shout at the earth. The earth does not demand an explanation. There is reception. There is quiet. There is time beyond the measurement of the waking mind. Your task is not to force the seed to grow. Your task is to stop disturbing the soil. So if you sleep, sleep. If you remain awake, remain without pressure. If attention wanders, let it wander and return only when returning feels easy. There is no failure in drifting. Drifting is not a departure from the practice. It is the practice becoming softer. Perhaps you are still aware of the room around you. You may hear a faint sound beyond the walls. You may notice the weight of the covering upon the body. You may sense the air touching the face. There is no need to remove these sensations. Let them become part of the night. The outer room may remain as it is, while the inner room becomes quiet. You are not waiting for perfect silence. You are allowing every sound to move farther from the center of attention. A sound appears. It fades. A thought appears. It fades. A sensation appears. It changes. And beneath all of these movements, awareness remains. Rest in the awareness rather than following every movement. You may notice the forehead has been holding more than you knew. Perhaps there is a slight gathering above the eyes, as though the mind has been trying to look ahead even with the eyelids closed. There is no need to smooth the forehead by force. Simply stop asking it to see tomorrow. Tomorrow does not need to be seen tonight. Let the skin above the eyes become less occupied. Let the small muscles release their watch. The brow does not need to carry the questions. The questions may rest elsewhere, unanswered and harmless. Feel how the forehead can become wide and quiet, like an open sky after the last birds have passed. Nothing needs to cross it. Nothing needs to remain. The eyes may rest behind their lids. They have looked upon enough evidence for one day. They have seen the facts and judged the distances. Now they may turn from the visible world without fear that the world will disappear. The world can continue without your inspection. Let the eyes become heavy, not with burden, but with permission. You do not need to search for a sign in the darkness. You do not need to see an image perfectly. You do not need to manufacture a vision. If an image comes, let it come. If there is only darkness, let darkness be sufficient. Darkness is not the absence of imagination. It is the unmarked space from which any image may arise. The muscles around the eyes may soften. The cheeks may become still. The jaw may have been preparing words, explanations, defenses, and answers. Perhaps you have spoken inwardly to people who were not present. Perhaps you have completed arguments that never occurred and reopened arguments that ended long ago. The jaw does not need to speak for you now. Let the teeth part slightly if they wish. Let the tongue rest. No answer is required. No one is questioning you in this room. No one is demanding that you prove your worth, defend your desire, or explain why you are tired. The mouth may become quiet. The inner argument may remain unfinished. An unfinished argument cannot harm you while you cease to participate in it. Let the last word remain unspoken. There is power in not continuing. There is freedom in allowing a conversation to end without winning it. Your peace is not the prize awarded by the other person's agreement. Peace is a state you may enter now. Let the jaw receive that peace. The neck may release the invisible effort of holding the head above the day. The head is supported now. You do not need to hold it up. You do not need to hold yourself up against life for these few hours. There is support beneath you. Let the support be felt, not imagined as a future promise, but recognized as present fact. Something is already carrying the weight of the body. Allow this simple physical support to become a symbol of a larger truth. You may be supported in ways you have not yet recognized. You may be carried across movements you cannot yet understand. You may rest before the whole bridge is visible. The shoulders may have risen slightly, as though expecting another demand. They may have become accustomed to carrying what belongs to many people, many days, many possible futures. Let them descend, not all at once, a little, then a little more. The shoulders do not need to hold tomorrow's letters, tomorrow's conversations, tomorrow's decisions, or tomorrow's responsibilities. Tomorrow will arrive with its own strength. You do not need to borrow its burden tonight. Let the shoulders become the shoulders of one who is not being pursued. The day is not chasing you into sleep. The past is not standing behind the bed. The future is not waiting at the foot of it with another task. For this moment, you are simply here. You are not listening in order to work harder. You are listening so that effort may finally release its hold. Let the arms grow quieter beside you. They have reached, lifted, carried, held, and protected. They need not reach for the desired outcome now. The desired state is not an object outside the body that must be seized before sleep. It is an atmosphere that may begin within consciousness. The arms may rest because nothing must be captured. The hands may become empty. Perhaps the fingers still hold a little tension, as though the body has not yet received the news that the day is finished. Let the fingers uncurl naturally. You do not have to open them deliberately. Simply imagine that nothing can be lost by loosening your grasp. What truly belongs to the state you occupy does not depend upon tension in the hands. The closed hand cannot receive easily. The open hand does not beg. It simply becomes available. Let the hands be available, not available to another task, available to rest. Feel the palms become quiet. Feel the small muscles between the fingers release. You have tried to manage the outer world through so many small acts. You have checked, calculated, prepared, corrected, anticipated, and controlled what could be controlled. Now the hands may admit that not everything belongs to them. The means do not belong entirely to your conscious planning. The bridge is not built by fingers alone. The deeper intelligence of life can move while the hands are still. Let the chest become less guarded. Perhaps there is a pressure there, not entirely physical, but emotional. The pressure of waiting, the pressure of being strong, the pressure of wondering whether something will change before you become too tired to hope. Do not demand that the pressure vanish. Meet it with room. The chest can hold sensation without becoming the sensation. Let the breath move around the tightness rather than attacking it. The breath knows paths the conscious mind does not design. It enters, it leaves, it makes space. You need not deepen it deliberately. You need not count. Simply notice that each breath completes itself without your command. This is a living parable. Life continues even when effort pauses. The breath does not need encouragement. It does not wait for your belief. It comes because coming is its nature. It leaves because leaving is its nature. Let the body learn from the breath. Some things are accomplished by allowing. Some doors open when the hand stops pushing. Some answers are heard when the question becomes quiet. The chest may soften around this truth. You are not required to hold the heart in readiness for bad news. You are not required to rehearse the blow before it comes. You may let the heart remain unguarded for one breath, only one. Then another may follow. You do not need to promise eternal trust. Feel safe enough for this breath, safe enough for the next. Safety may enter gradually, like warmth entering a room after a fire has been lit. At first, it is almost imperceptible. Then the room no longer feels cold. Let the abdomen release the habit of bracing. Many fears live there before they become words. The body may tighten before the mind knows what it is expecting. Do not ask the abdomen to explain. Let it be wordless. The old expectation may be stored as a contraction, but contraction is not identity. It is a learned response, and what has learned to contract may also learn to soften. Allow the breath to move lower if it wishes. Feel the body become less divided. No upper part trying to control the lower. No mind forcing the body to obey. Only a gradual agreement with rest. The abdomen may become easy. It does not need to anticipate the future. The future is not physically present in the room. Only imagination can bring it here. Tonight, let imagination bring peace rather than danger, or bring nothing at all. Emptiness can be peaceful. The hips may settle more fully into the support beneath them. You do not need to position yourself perfectly. There is no sacred posture required. The body knows how it wishes to sleep. Allow it to find that position without making the position another problem to solve. If you need to move, move. Movement does not break the state. Comfort is not failure. The practice is not so fragile that one adjustment can destroy it. Let the body know it is permitted to be human. It may shift, it may sigh, it may swallow, it may grow warm or cool. All of this can occur within the larger movement toward rest. The legs may release their readiness to travel. There is nowhere you must go tonight. No road must be walked before morning. No distance separates you from the state of consciousness you seek. A physical journey requires steps. An inner state is entered through acceptance. Therefore, the legs may become heavy. Not heavy with weariness, but heavy with stillness. The thighs may soften. The knees may rest without holding direction. The calves may release their quiet labor. The ankles may become loose. The feet, which have carried you through the day, may finally stop preparing for the next step. There is no next step required in this moment. Feel the feet become distant from the mind. Perhaps you can barely sense them now. This is well. The body is becoming less demanding. The boundaries of the body may soften. You may feel as though you are resting not merely upon the bed, but within a larger field of stillness. Do not try to create this sensation. If it comes, receive it. If it does not, rest as you are. Nothing depends upon producing a special experience. The special experience is not the power. The state is the power. And the state can be quiet, ordinary, almost unnoticed. You may think that transformation must feel dramatic. Yet some of the deepest changes enter with so little noise that the conscious mind does not recognize them until the old reaction fails to appear. A sentence no longer hurts in the same way. A fear no longer controls the whole day. A delay no longer becomes a prophecy. A silence no longer becomes abandonment. The change may begin tonight as simple rest. Do not call rest insignificant. Rest is what the old state could not permit. The old state believed it must remain watchful. It believed that worry was protection. It believed that effort was the only cause. When you rest, even briefly, you withdraw consent from that belief. You say without words, life may move while I am still. The answer may form while I am not examining it. The bridge may be built while I do not supervise it. This is not passivity. It is a different relation to power. You are not listening in order to work harder. You are listening so that effort may finally release its hold. Perhaps you are already drifting. Perhaps some sentences arrive clearly and others seem to pass through a gentle fog. Let the fog come. You do not need to push it away. The conscious mind may fear that it will miss the important part. It may say, "Stay awake, the decree has not yet been revealed," but the decree will not depend upon one moment of conscious concentration. Its meaning is being prepared in you now. And when the words appear later, they may reach you whether you are fully alert, half dreaming, or deeply at rest. You do not need to wait at the door for them. The deeper mind does not require you to stand guard. If you sleep before the phrase is spoken, the atmosphere of completion may still reach farther than the words themselves. The tone of rest may become your decree. The softening of the body may become your declaration. The refusal to struggle may become the new instruction. Words assist the movement, but words are not the only language of consciousness. A sigh can be an inner sentence. An unclenched hand can be an act of faith. A quiet chest can say, "The danger is no longer being rehearsed." A body permitted to sleep can say, "I am no longer trying to hold the universe together." Let your body speak this language. You have spoken enough in the old language of effort. You have said, "I must find the answer. I must make them understand. I must know the outcome. I must prevent the loss. I must remain alert." Now another language begins. I may rest. I may receive. I may allow. I may be carried. I may sleep before I understand. There is humility in this. The conscious mind admits that it does not need to know every hidden movement. There is also authority. You decide that ignorance of the means will not force you back into fear. You may not know how. You may still rest. You may not know when. You may still occupy peace. You may not know through whom. You may still feel supported. The lack of an explanation does not require the presence of anxiety. Let explanation wait. Tonight is for impression. The words are becoming softer now. The mind does not need more sharp edges. Let each sentence arrive like a wave that reaches the shore and then retreats. You do not follow the water back into the sea. You receive the touch and let it go. A sentence arrives. It touches consciousness. It fades. Another arrives. Nothing must be held. Nothing must be collected. You are not building a library in the mind. You are allowing an atmosphere to gather. The atmosphere is one of permission. Permission to stop. Permission to be unfinished. Permission to enter sleep before the teaching ends. Permission to trust that one does not need constant effort in order to be inwardly transformed. Imagine a lamp burning in a quiet room. The lamp does not chase away every shadow. It simply remains lit. You need not chase every thought. Remain with the small light of awareness. Thoughts may pass at the edges. The light remains. The old story may appear briefly. The light remains. A question about tomorrow may move across the room. The light remains. You are not required to follow each shadow. The lamp has no anxiety about darkness. It rests in its nature. Let awareness rest in its nature. I am. Nothing more is required for the moment. I am. The words may be heard or only felt. I am. Before effort, I am. Before the day's concerns, I am. Before the desire, and before the method, I am. This awareness is not trying to achieve itself. It simply is. Rest there. If you fall asleep now, fall asleep in the simplicity of being. You do not need to add a condition. The new instruction will arise from this foundation later. But the foundation itself is enough for sleep. You may sleep as pure awareness without solving the desire. You may sleep without carrying the name of the problem. The problem has a name. Awareness does not need to wear it. Let the name remain outside the bed. You are not the unpaid bill. You are not the unanswered letter. You are not the delayed decision. You are not the silence. You are not the memory. You are aware of them. Therefore, you are greater than the state they awaken. This greater awareness may rest. There is no contradiction between power and softness. True power does not always feel like action. Sometimes power is the refusal to react. Sometimes power is a night in which the old fear is not fed. Sometimes power is allowing sleep to interrupt a pattern that worry wished to continue. Let sleep interrupt the old pattern. Let the day remain incomplete. The world will not collapse because you stop thinking about it for a few hours. A problem is not solved by being carried into every dream. Set it down. You may return to practical action when morning comes, but you need not rehearse helplessness before action. Tomorrow, you may act from a quieter state. Tonight, become quiet enough that another state can be heard. Perhaps it says nothing. Perhaps it only feels like space. Space is enough. A crowded room cannot receive another guest until something is moved. The old effort has occupied much of consciousness. As it releases, space appears. Do not rush to fill the space with new words. Let the space itself be healing. The decree will later enter this space. It will not have to compete with 100 anxious questions. It will fall gently and be received. For now, prepare by doing less. Not less in the outer life tomorrow. Less here. Less holding. Less searching. Less measuring. Less trying to remain awake. You are not listening in order to work harder. You are listening so that effort may finally release its hold. Let this thought become slower. You are not listening in order to work harder. You are listening so that effort may finally release its hold. Perhaps the sentence is already losing its words and becoming a feeling. That is good. The feeling may be a quiet permission to stop. Let it spread through the body. The forehead no longer searching. The eyes no longer watching. The jaw no longer answering. The shoulders no longer carrying. The hands no longer grasping. The chest no longer guarding. The abdomen no longer anticipating. The hips settling. The legs becoming still. The feet resting at the end of the day's road. The whole body may become one quiet agreement. I do not need to continue. This night does not require performance. I may sleep. You may fall asleep before I finish. You may fall asleep before the decree. You may fall asleep before the explanation is complete. The deeper movement does not wait for intellectual completion. Sleep is not abandoning the lesson. Sleep is entering the condition toward which the lesson has been leading you. So do not fight the heaviness of the eyelids. Do not resist the fading of my voice. Do not pull yourself back because one sentence became unclear. Let clarity become unnecessary. There are truths understood more deeply when the conscious mind ceases to insist upon understanding. The heart may receive a mood before reason names it. The body may accept safety before the mind proves it. Imagination may shift direction before the senses report movement. Trust the quiet sequence. If you awaken later, nothing has been ruined. You may hear another portion and drift again. Each return can be gentle. No beginning must be reconstructed. No perfect continuity is required. Sleep moves in waves. Attention moves in waves. Let the teaching move with them. When you hear my voice, let it remind you that effort may rest. When the voice disappears into sleep, let the silence continue the same message. Nothing is demanded. Nothing is being graded. Nothing must be forced. The night is not an examination hall. It is a sanctuary in which the old worker may finally put down the tools. The tools have been useful. Reason has served you. Planning has served you. Effort has carried you through difficult seasons. But tools are not meant to remain in the hands forever. At the end of labor, they are placed upon the table. Place them down now. The hammer of argument, the measuring instrument of comparison, the lamp of constant inspection, the map of every imagined danger. Set them upon the inner table. They will remain there if needed in the morning. You lose nothing by resting. You gain the space in which another wisdom may operate. You do not need to supervise that wisdom. It has been breathing you since before you understood breath. It has carried the body through sleep countless times. It has healed small wounds while attention was elsewhere. It has arranged memories, softened impressions, and restored strength beyond your conscious direction. Trust that there are depths of being that do not require your constant command. Tonight, you are not commanding those depths through strain. You are allowing them to receive another atmosphere. An atmosphere of enough. An atmosphere of safety. An atmosphere in which the matter does not have to be solved before the body is permitted to rest. Let this atmosphere become the cradle. You do not need to rock it. The breath will do that. In, out, near, far, awake, drifting. No boundary must be guarded. You may pass from one state to the next without noticing. The conscious mind likes clear borders. Sleep does not require them. Let the border become soft. Perhaps the room seems farther away. Perhaps the body feels heavier. Perhaps words begin to arrive without being fully followed. This is not a problem. You are approaching the place where effort loses its claim. Remain there without trying to remain. This is the paradox the waking mind cannot solve. You enter by ceasing to enter. You receive by ceasing to grasp. You sleep by ceasing to chase sleep. Let it happen. Do not ask whether you are close. The question keeps you standing outside. There is no outside. You are already within the night, already supported, already listening less, already holding less, already becoming still. You may hear one final reassurance before drifting farther. You cannot miss what does not depend upon effort. You cannot fail a practice whose deepest movement is release. You cannot ruin the night by sleeping. Sleep is welcome. Drowsiness is welcome. Wandering thought is welcome. A moment of doubt is welcome, and may pass. Nothing needs to be expelled before peace enters. Peace can enter a room that is not yet perfect. It can sit quietly while old thoughts move in the distance. Let peace sit. Do not ask it to prove itself. Do not ask how long it will remain. For this breath, it is here. For this moment, effort is less. That is enough. You are not listening in order to work harder. You are listening so that effort may finally release its hold. Let it release. Let the sentence release. Let my voice release. Let the need to understand release. Let the day release you. And when sleep comes, do not call it the end of the teaching. Call it the moment the teaching no longer needs words. The body rests. The conscious guard grows quiet. The old instruction loses its urgency. A deeper atmosphere begins to form. You need not witness it. You need not remember it. You need not remain awake. Sleep may receive you now, and whether you hear the next sentence or not, let this remain beneath all sound. Nothing is required of you. You are safe to stop. You are safe to drift. You are safe to let effort release its hold. When men speak of forcing the universe, they often imagine resistance. They picture life as something distant and stubborn, something that must be persuaded, threatened, bargained with, or overcome. They imagine themselves standing before an enormous closed gate, pushing against it with desire, repeating words more loudly, praying with greater intensity, and wondering why the gate does not move. But I tell you, this is not the meaning of force. You do not force life by becoming more desperate. You do not force response by exhausting the body. You do not force the unseen by shouting into the night as though some distant power has refused to hear you. The universe is not a reluctant ruler seated far above you, deciding whether your request deserves attention. It is not a merchant with whom you must bargain. It is not an enemy whose will must be broken. It is not a judge who becomes kinder because you have suffered long enough. What you call the universe is the visible field of your experience. It is the arrangement of circumstances, relationships, opportunities, delays, reactions, meetings, decisions, and conditions through which your state becomes known to you. The field reflects, it does not argue, and reflection is not persuaded by noise. Stand before a mirror and command the image to raise its hand while your own hand remains still. You may plead, you may threaten, you may explain that the reflection ought to obey. You may repeat the command until your voice grows tired. The image will remain unmoved. Not because the mirror resists you, because you have asked the reflection to become the cause. Raise your own hand, and the image must follow. The movement of the reflection is forced, but not through aggression. It is forced by correspondence. Once the cause moves, the effect has no choice but to agree. This is what I mean when I speak of forcing life to respond. You do not attack the reflection. You move the one standing before the glass. You do not wrestle with the echo. You change the sound. You do not chase the shadow across the floor. You turn the object that casts it. Force, in this teaching, means lawful inevitability. It means that once the inner state is truly changed, the outer field cannot continue indefinitely, as though nothing had happened. The world is not compelled by the violence of your desire. It is compelled by the consistency of your identity. Hear that slowly. The world is not compelled by the violence of your desire. It is compelled by the consistency of your identity. Desire can be intense, while identity remains unchanged. A man may desire wealth so intensely that he thinks of little else, yet every thought arises from the identity of one who is deprived. His desire does not say, I possess. It says, I lack. A woman may desire love with all her heart, yet watch every gesture for evidence of rejection. Her desire says, come closer, while her identity says, people leave me. Another may desire peace and spend the day preparing for conflict. The wish says, let me rest. The state says, remain alert. The intensity of desire does not determine the response. The state beneath desire does. This is why wanting more fiercely does not always change the world more quickly. Sometimes fierce wanting strengthens the awareness of absence. The person imagines the desired thing again and again, but each image reminds them that it is not present. They reach inwardly, strain emotionally, and call this faith. But reaching is not possession. Longing is not assumption. Hope is not identity. I do not condemn desire. Desire is sacred. It is the first movement that reveals a state waiting to be entered. Desire tells you that consciousness is capable of another experience. But desire is a messenger. It is not the destination. A messenger may tell you that a house exists across the valley, yet hearing of the house is not the same as entering it. You may speak of the rooms, imagine the windows, and wonder how it would feel to live there. Still, you remain outside. Desire points. Assumption enters. This is the distinction you must understand tonight. Intention is also not assumption. You may intend to change tomorrow. You may intend to think differently. You may intend to stop fearing, stop checking, stop complaining, stop returning to the old story. Intention is valuable, but intention still looks forward. It says, I am preparing to become. Assumption says, I accept being. A traveler may intend to board a train, yet remain upon the platform. The intention is sincere. The destination may be clear. The ticket may be in the hand. But until the traveler steps aboard, the journey has not begun. Assumption is the boarding. It is the movement from contemplating a state to occupying it. Words are not assumption either. Words can lead you toward a state. They can remind you of a state. They can awaken a feeling. But words repeated without inward movement remain upon the surface. You may say, I am secure, while feeling exposed. You may say, I am loved, while inwardly preparing for silence. You may say, I am prosperous, while every part of the body braces at the thought of an expense. The deeper mind receives the emotional truth beneath the sentence. It hears not only the words, but the one who speaks them. There is a great difference between saying, I am safe, as one trying to convince fear, and saying, I am safe, as one resting in safety. The words are identical. The speaker is different. This is why the law cannot be reduced to phrases. A phrase may be a cup. The state is the water. A cup without water does not satisfy thirst. A word without feeling does not establish identity. Yet do not misunderstand feeling as emotional excitement. A state may be accepted quietly. In fact, the deepest assumptions often contain very little drama. You know your name without excitement. You know where you live without celebration. You know which chair is yours without repeating it. Natural identity is calm. It does not need constant proof, because it is not being held together by argument. If someone entered your room and told you that your name was another name, you might smile. You would not need hours of affirmation to defend yourself. The suggestion would fail to disturb you because your identity is settled. This settled quality is the force I speak of. When the new state becomes settled, contradictory appearances may still arise, but they no longer possess the same authority. A delay appears, and you do not immediately become abandoned. An expense appears, and you do not immediately become poor in consciousness. A person is silent, and you do not immediately become unlovable. The old evidence arrives, but there is no old identity waiting eagerly to receive it. This is inward consistency. The state remains the same while appearances move. Consistency does not mean that you never have another emotion. It does not mean that doubt never crosses the mind. It does not mean that every hour is filled with perfect confidence. A passing doubt is weather. Identity is climate. A moment of sadness is weather. Identity is climate. An unexpected fear may move across consciousness like a cloud. The presence of the cloud does not mean the sky has become the cloud. You do not need to become frightened by every thought. You need only know where you return. When the mind wanders, where does it rest again? When the old story speaks, which name do you accept? When the senses present contradiction, which state do you call home? The state to which you return most naturally becomes the instruction life receives. This is why force is not tension. Tension often reveals uncertainty. The clenched hand fears losing. The anxious repetition fears silence. The constant checking fears that nothing has moved. True force feels more like gravity. Gravity does not shout at the stone. It does not argue with the rain. It remains what it is, and all within its field responds accordingly. An accepted state has this quality. It creates an inward field. Thoughts, choices, interpretations, and actions begin to move within that field. You notice what agrees with the state. You respond from the state. Others encounter a different presence in you. The bridge forms through movements so natural that the old mind may call them coincidence. Yet beneath the visible sequence is the invisible consistency. A compass does not drag the traveler across the land. It establishes direction. Because the direction is known, each step becomes meaningful. Your state is the compass. The outer incidents are the steps. A person without inward direction may work very hard and still walk in circles. Another may move slowly but remain aligned with the end. The distance covered by effort is not the only measure. Direction matters. Identity gives direction. Suppose you desire financial ease. Desire says, I want relief. Intention says, I will improve my condition. Words say, I am supplied. But assumption is the actual emotional position from which you meet money. Do you meet it as an enemy? Do you meet every obligation as a threat? Do you believe receiving must be temporary? Do you feel guilty at the thought of having more? Do you assume that support belongs to others but not to you? These are the hidden definitions of identity. You cannot change the financial state merely by placing pleasant sentences over definitions that remain untouched. You must enter another relation to supply. You may begin with the simple recognition, I am not abandoned by life. This does not deny the facts that require attention. It changes the one who attends to them. From abandonment, a bill is a sentence. From support, it is a condition to be met. From abandonment, help feels humiliating. From support, help may be part of the bridge. From abandonment, an idea seems too small. From support, the same idea may become a beginning. The object has not changed at first. The observer has. And because the observer changes, the future of the object may also change. Suppose you desire love. Desire says, I want to be chosen. Intention says, I will become more open. Words say, I am loved. But assumption is revealed in how you interpret closeness, distance, silence, praise, disagreement, and uncertainty. If every silence becomes rejection, you still inhabit abandonment. If every delay becomes proof that affection is fading, you still inhabit insecurity. If you believe love must be pursued, tested, or controlled in order to remain, you have not yet entered the state of being loved. The loved state does not mean that every person behaves perfectly. It means another person's imperfection does not instantly erase your identity. You may respond wisely. You may speak. You may set a boundary. You may leave what is harmful. But you do not do so as one trying to prove worth through another's behavior. You act from worth. This is force. Not force over another person. Force as the inevitability of self-concept expressing itself through your choices and through the world you permit yourself to inhabit. The old self asks, how do I make them respond? The new self asks, who am I in relation to love? The first question looks outward. The second returns to cause. Suppose you desire freedom. You may say, I will be free when the circumstance changes. But this makes the circumstance the author of freedom. You may intend to escape, plan endlessly, and still carry the identity of imprisonment into every plan. The free state begins when you cease calling the circumstance your total self. You may still be within a limiting arrangement. You may still need to take practical steps, but inwardly, you no longer kneel before it as your final definition. A person can leave a room physically while carrying the room in consciousness. Another can remain for a season while inwardly becoming so free that the outer exit becomes natural and inevitable. The essential movement is the same. Identity first, expression follows. This is why I say the world is compelled by consistency of identity. Consistency means the inner request and the inner name agree. You ask for support as one who accepts support. You ask for love as one who accepts being lovable and loved. You ask for freedom as one who no longer calls confinement I. You ask for opportunity as one who feels capable of belonging where opportunity leads. Then the desire is no longer contradicted by the one desiring. The current flows in one direction. Imagine two horses pulling a carriage in opposite directions. Both may be strong, both may strain, yet the carriage barely moves. This is the condition of many minds. The conscious intention pulls toward fulfillment. The habitual identity pulls toward repetition. The person experiences great exhaustion and little movement. Then they conclude that more strength is needed. But strength is not the problem. Division is the problem. Bring the horses into one direction, and the carriage moves with less strain. This is the true economy of consciousness. You do not need greater emotional effort. You need agreement within. Agreement does not mean that every thought must be controlled. It means the deeper conclusion becomes clear. Who am I? What is natural for me? What kind of answer do I expect from life? These questions reveal the direction. The state you occupy answers before the words do. When you think of the desire, does the body reach or rest? Does the mind beg or recognize? Do you imagine yourself looking at fulfillment or looking from it? Does the future feel like something approaching you, or like an atmosphere you are already willing to inhabit? These distinctions are subtle, but the law moves through subtle causes. A slight change in the angle of a ship's rudder may create a great difference after many miles. The first movement is small. The eventual destination is not. So do not despise a quiet change of identity, because it lacks drama. Tonight, if you move from pleading to permission, the rudder has moved. If you move from absence to the willingness to feel supported, the rudder has moved. If you stop asking whether the world will allow you to become another person, the rudder has moved. The senses may still show the same sea. The destination has changed. You may ask, how do I know when desire has become assumption? You know by the quality of relation. Desire often places the object upon an altar, and the self beneath it. Assumption places you within the state, and allows the object to become one expression of that state. Desire says, this thing will save me. Assumption says, I accept the fulfilled self now, and let the form come as its witness. Desire feels that life is withholding. Assumption feels that consciousness is choosing. Desire counts time. Assumption deepens naturalness. Desire fears contradiction. Assumption can observe contradiction without surrendering identity. The change may not occur in one dramatic instant. You may move gradually. At first, the new state feels borrowed. You speak from it for a moment, and then return to the old tone. This is not failure. A new language feels deliberate before it becomes fluent. A musician plays each note consciously, before the hands move naturally. A garment feels new before it takes the shape of the body. Remain gentle. Consistency is built through return, not through self-punishment. Each time you notice that you are speaking from lack, return to the state of support. Each time you notice that you are speaking from abandonment, return to belonging. Each time you notice that you are speaking from delay, return to the present acceptance of being. You do not wrestle the old state into submission. You cease renewing it. A tenant leaves a house not by fighting every wall, but by removing possession. Attention is possession. Emotional allegiance is possession. The word I is possession. Stop joining I to the former state, and it begins to lose occupancy. You may say, fear is present, but I do not call fear my identity. You may say, uncertainty is present, but I do not call myself lost. You may say, the old evidence is present, but I do not call it final. This separation creates room for another state. Then you choose, not with violence, with clarity. I am supported. I am loved. I am free. I am capable. I am at peace. The specific words matter less than the inner movement they represent. Do not say them as weapons against the old world. Say them as descriptions of the state you are entering. A weapon assumes an enemy. A description assumes presence. This is why the tone matters. The phrase, I am safe, spoken against terror, may feel like battle. The same phrase spoken as a gentle recognition may feel like home. The deepest mind receives home more easily than battle. Let the words become places of rest. If a phrase causes strain, do not shout it more loudly. Simplify it. Perhaps I am willing to feel safe. Perhaps safety is available to me. Perhaps I do not need to predict danger tonight. These softer entrances do not weaken the law. They may bring you into genuine acceptance more efficiently than grand declarations that create inner resistance. You are not rewarded for choosing the most impressive sentence. You are transformed by entering the state. The door may be humble. The room beyond it is what matters. Remember that the universe, as I am using the word, does not hear language as a man hears language. It reflects total consciousness. You cannot deceive a mirror with words. You may stand before it saying, I am smiling, while your face remains stern. The mirror reflects the face. But the face can change. This is good news. You need not spend the night inventing perfect sentences. You need only become honest about the face you are presenting inwardly. What emotional expression have you carried toward life? Suspicion, weariness, need, defiance, expectation of loss? Do not condemn it. See it. Then allow it to soften. A face changes more easily when it is not attacked. Perhaps you have been stern toward life because life once seemed stern toward you. Perhaps you became watchful because surprise once brought pain. Perhaps you learned to expect less because disappointment felt unbearable. These were attempts at protection. Thank them. But protection can become imprisonment when it outlives the danger that created it. Tonight, the face before the mirror may become softer, not foolish, not blind. Soft enough to receive another expression. Soft enough to imagine that support may exist. Soft enough to stop interpreting every unknown as danger. Soft enough to let the desired state come near without interrogation. This softness is not weakness. It is the absence of contradiction. A seed cannot enter a clenched fist. The hand opens. The seed is received. The hand need not attack itself for having been closed. It simply opens. Let consciousness open in this way. You are not forcing life through aggression. You are becoming consistent with the state you choose. The more consistent the identity, the less effort is needed. A door may be pushed with great force when one does not realize it opens inward. Turn the handle and move with the design. The law has a design. Identity first. Experience follows. Assumption first. Expression follows. Inner cause first. Outer correspondence follows. When you live contrary to the design, there is strain. You try to drag effects into place while leaving cause unchanged. When you move with the design, action becomes more natural. This is not a promise that every road will be effortless. It is a promise that your efforts need not be divided against your own identity. There may be work. There may be decisions. There may be conversations, adjustments, study, patience, courage, and practical movement. But the work will be performed by another self. The supported self works differently from the desperate self. The loved self speaks differently from the abandoned self. The free self makes decisions differently from the imprisoned self. The inner state changes the quality of action. And the quality of action changes the path through which experience unfolds. The universe responds not only around you, but through you. This is important. Some expect response to arrive while they remain entirely passive. They imagine that if the law is real, no movement should ever arise through their own hands. But your hands are part of the universe. Your voice is part of the field. Your impulse, insight, courage, and willingness are channels through which the state expresses. The response may be an idea that feels natural. It may be the desire to write a letter. It may be the courage to decline an old arrangement. It may be the calm to remain where panic once made you flee. It may be the recognition of an opportunity that was previously invisible. Do not say, I had to act, therefore imagination did nothing. The new action may be imagination becoming flesh through you. The distinction is not between action and no action. It is between action arising from fear and action arising from the assumed end. Fear acts to become safe. The secure state acts because safety is already the inner ground. Lack acts to seize. Supply acts to circulate and receive. Abandonment acts to chase. Love acts to express, welcome, and choose with dignity. Look at the inner source of movement. There you will know the state. Tonight, you are not asked to determine every future action. The night is for cause. The morning may reveal movement. Let the morning have its work later. For now, understand the law. The world does not need to be shouted at. It does not need to be frightened by your decree. It does not need to be persuaded that you deserve fulfillment. The law does not measure deserving as men do. It reflects the state. A field does not ask whether the seed has lived a moral life. It reproduces according to kind. A mirror does not ask whether the face has suffered enough to deserve a smile. It reflects the expression presented. This impartiality may seem severe until you realize it is liberation. You are not waiting for favoritism. You are not trying to win a hidden competition. You are learning correspondence. Change the seed, change the reflection, change the inner sound, change the echo. This is exact, and because it is exact, you may rest. You do not need to wonder whether life is in the mood to answer you. Life is always answering. The only question is the state being answered. Let this remove the sense of personal rejection. The old answer was not life saying, you are unworthy. It was life saying, this is the state presently active. The old circumstance was not a divine insult. It was an image of an inner arrangement. You may rearrange. Do not rearrange through hatred of the former self. The former self acted from what felt natural then. Now another state may become natural. Naturalness is the secret of persistence. At first, you may have to return often. The old state is familiar. It knows the corridors of the mind. It enters without knocking, because you once gave it the house. The new state may feel like a guest. Invite it repeatedly. Let it sit. Let it become known. In time, the guest becomes the resident. The old state then feels like a visitor whose habits no longer match the household. This is how identity changes, not through one violent declaration, through repeated residence. Tonight, the residence begins with understanding. You are not asking a remote universe to hear your voice. You are becoming conscious of the voice it has always reflected. The voice is not merely verbal. It is the voice of expectation, the voice of reaction, the voice of what feels possible, the voice of what you call I. This is the voice life answers. Let it become quieter now. Do not rush to replace every old statement. First, hear the silence beneath them. I am. Before desire, I am. Before intention, I am. Before words, I am. Before assumption takes form, there is awareness capable of assumption. Rest there for a moment. Pure awareness is not divided. It has not yet said, I am rich or poor, loved or unloved, free or confined. It is simply being. From being, select. This is why I am is the sacred root. Whatever you join to it, you invite into identity. But the joining must be more than sound. It must become relation. When you say, I am supported, can you allow yourself to relate to the unknown as though support may exist? When you say, I am loved, can you stop treating every silence as proof of exclusion? When you say, I am free, can you refuse to make one condition the total definition of being? The state becomes real through the relationship you have with experience. Words begin it. Feeling clothes it. Assumption inhabits it. Life reflects it. This is the full movement. Desire reveals the state. Intention turns toward it. Words name it. Feeling gives it reality. Assumption occupies it. Expression follows. Do not confuse one stage with another. You may desire without intending. You may intend without speaking. You may speak without feeling. You may feel briefly without occupying. Assumption is the point at which the state becomes the place from which you live. even if only for a sacred interval before sleep. One interval can matter greatly. A room is entered the moment you cross the threshold, even if you remain there briefly. Tonight, you will cross deliberately. You do not need to remain for hours. You do not need to hold the state with strain. Enter it fully enough to know its atmosphere. Then let sleep deepen the residence. The conscious mind may ask whether such a brief act can compel a vast world to respond. The question imagines the world as vast and consciousness as small, but the visible field is not separate from the state that perceives and organizes it. The seed is small compared with the tree, yet the pattern of the tree is contained within it. The rudder is small compared with the ship, yet its angle alters the destination. A key is small compared with the house, yet it opens the door. The inward act may be brief. Its significance is not measured by duration. It is measured by acceptance. One clear assumption may have greater creative weight than many hours of contradictory thought. A judge may hear a case for days, yet the verdict may be one sentence. The sentence ends the uncertainty. So it is with the decree that will later be given. It will not be long. It will not attempt to describe the whole future. It will establish the inner verdict. The words will not force the world. The accepted verdict will. Do you see the difference? The words are the seal pressed into wax. The identity is the authority behind the seal. A seal without authority is decoration. Authority without a seal may remain unexpressed. Together they establish the order. Tonight, we prepare the authority. You become the one who speaks from completion rather than toward it. You become the one who does not ask the reflection to move first. You become the one who turns within and allows correspondence to perform its lawful work. This does not make you cold toward the outer world. It makes you wiser in relation to it. You may observe appearances without worshipping them. You may respond to facts without making them your God. You may take action without calling action the sole cause. You may care about outcomes without becoming enslaved to their present absence. You may desire deeply without using longing as your identity. This balance is power, not denial, not passivity, not aggression, power. The power to choose the state from which you meet what is present. The power to stop giving each appearance a final meaning. The power to remain inwardly consistent while the bridge forms. The power to rest. Let rest now become part of your understanding of force. The old mind believes force is tightening. The law reveals that force may be settlement. A stone rests in the earth, and gravity holds it without effort. A river follows its level without debate. A planet moves in its path without anxiety. Law does not strain. It is consistent. Become consistent with the desired state, not perfectly in every thought, consistent in return, consistent in identity, consistent in the conclusion you choose when the mind becomes quiet. When you awaken in the night, return. When the old evidence speaks, return. When the mind asks how, return. Not to many words, to the state. I am supported. I am loved. I am free. I am at peace. Or simply, the matter is no longer being carried by fear. Let one of these states become your resting place. The world will respond, because response is what the world does. Do not watch it anxiously. A mirror reflects immediately, but some expressions of consciousness move through sequence. The inner cause may be accepted in an instant, while the visible arrangement unfolds through events. This does not mean the law is delayed. It means expression has form. A seed is fully planted now, though the tree appears in stages. A letter may be written now, though it travels before arriving. A decision may be made now, though many people and places are involved in its expression. Do not confuse sequence with refusal. Remain faithful to the cause. Your state may begin changing before the outer form becomes visible. This is not a lesser response. It is the substance of the response. You may notice calm where panic once lived. You may notice dignity where pleading once lived. You may notice willingness where hopelessness once lived. You may notice a different word arising naturally in the mind. The face has changed before the mirror is inspected. Let the reflection come. You do not need to stand before the glass every minute. The world is not compelled by the violence of your desire. It is compelled by the consistency of your identity. Let this thought become more than an idea. Feel its mercy. You do not need to desire more violently. You do not need to prove how badly you want the change. You do not need to suffer loudly enough for life to respond. You need not shout. You need not bargain. You need not make yourself worthy through exhaustion. You may become consistent with fulfillment quietly. The tired body can do this. The sleepy mind can do this. A whisper can carry identity. A gentle feeling can establish direction. A moment of naturalness can become the seed. You are not too tired for assumption. You may be too tired for struggle, and that may be your advantage tonight. Let exhaustion remove the desire to argue. Let sleep take the tools of control from the conscious mind. Let the deeper state become simple. There is no distant power to persuade. There is no closed universe to break open. There is awareness. There is selection. There is acceptance. There is correspondence. This is the law. You may rest within law. You do not force the mirror. You change the face. You do not force the echo. You change the sound. You do not force the world through violence. You become inwardly consistent with the state you choose. Then the response is not a favor. It is not an accident. It is not a reward. It is correspondence made visible. Let that understanding settle beneath thought now. Desire has shown you the direction. Intention has brought you to this night. Words will soon name the state. Feeling will give the words life. Assumption will make the state your dwelling. And the visible field, faithful to the dwelling you occupy, will begin to answer. No aggression is needed. No strain is needed. Only the quiet movement of identity. The face changes. The reflection follows. The inner sound changes. The echo follows. The state changes. Life responds. Life has been answering you all along. This may seem difficult to accept when the answer before you appears so different from the one you consciously requested. You may have asked for relief and found another obligation waiting upon the table. You may have asked for affection and heard only silence. You may have asked for movement and awakened to circumstances that seemed fixed in their old positions. Naturally, you concluded that no answer had come. You prayed, but nothing answered. You imagined, but nothing moved. You spoke of change, but the day returned wearing yesterday's clothes. Yet I tell you that life was not silent. It was responding with extraordinary precision, but not merely to the request formed upon your lips. It was responding to the deeper instruction carried in the emotional state from which the request was made. This is the distinction that will free you from believing that the law has overlooked you. A request may be conscious. An instruction may be unconscious. The conscious mind says, I desire abundance. The deeper assumption says, another expense will surely appear. The conscious mind says, I desire love. The deeper assumption listens for the sound of departure. The conscious mind says, I desire freedom. The deeper assumption continues to speak of confinement, as though it were a permanent name. The conscious request and the emotional instruction move in opposite directions. And because the emotional instruction feels more natural, it carries the greater authority. Imagine that a messenger is sent from a great house bearing a written order. Upon the outside of the document, someone has written a polite request, but at the bottom is an official seal, and the seal authorizes an entirely different command. The messenger does not obey the decorative words written along the margin. He obeys the sealed order. In the same way, the words you consciously speak may request one experience, while the feeling you repeatedly accept places another seal upon the message. You may write, bring me prosperity, but the emotional seal says, prepare for loss. You may write, let me be chosen, but the seal says, expect to be overlooked. You may write, open the way, but the seal says, there is no way for me. Life receives the whole order. It does not ignore the request out of cruelty. It fulfills the instruction carrying the greater authority. The lips may compose the letter. Identity places the seal. This is why you must not judge your prayer merely by its words. Ask what emotional seal was placed upon it. When you asked for money, did you ask as one who felt supported, or as one who believed the world had abandoned them to struggle? When you asked for love, did you ask as one who felt worthy of tenderness, or as one expecting that affection must be pursued and defended? When you asked for freedom, did you ask as one who knew another state was available, or as one inwardly certain that circumstances held the final power? These questions are not accusations. I do not ask them so that you may examine the past with shame. I ask them so that you may recognize where the real instruction has been formed. If the instruction were outside you, you would have no authority to alter it. But if the emotional seal has been formed within consciousness, it may be changed within consciousness. This is mercy. The old order was not a moral failure. It was a learned position. Perhaps you learned to expect loss because loss arrived more than once before you understood how to separate an event from an identity. Perhaps you learned to anticipate rejection because affection in your early life seemed uncertain. You became watchful. You studied tones of voice, pauses, faces, and departures. The watchfulness once appeared useful. It seemed to prepare you for pain. Perhaps you learned that money required constant strain because those around you spoke of it with fear. They treated every expense as an approaching enemy. They praised exhaustion and distrusted ease. Before you consciously formed an opinion, the atmosphere had already taught you what to expect. Perhaps you learned that freedom was dangerous because every attempt to choose for yourself was met with disapproval. You began to say, "I want another life," while inwardly preparing to be punished for leaving the old one. These conclusions were not formed because you lacked intelligence. They were formed through experience, repetition, and emotional survival. A child does not examine every conclusion philosophically. The child receives impressions. A voice repeatedly heard becomes an inner voice. A mood repeatedly felt becomes an expected climate. An event repeatedly interpreted in one way becomes a rule. Then the child grows, and the rule remains. Years later, the adult speaks a new desire, while the old rule continues placing its seal beneath the words. This is why the answer appears divided. Conscious desire reaches toward one state. Learned identity authorizes another. Do not hate the old seal. It was created in a season when you did not yet know that an assumption could be questioned. Now you know. And what has been sealed unconsciously may be unsealed consciously. Let us make this very clear. A fearful thought passing through the mind is not necessarily the seal. A moment of sadness is not the seal. One night of worry is not an irreversible command. You need not become frightened of your own inner world. Fear of thinking wrongly would only create another chamber of fear. The seal is the conclusion you repeatedly accept as natural. It is the emotional answer beneath many separate thoughts. Many thoughts may appear different upon the surface, yet they are stamped by the same conclusion. You think of an obligation and say, "I cannot manage it." You think of an opportunity and say, "It will probably pass me by." You think of another person and say, "They will lose interest." You think of the future and say, "I must prepare for disappointment." These are different subjects, but they may all carry one seal. I am unsupported. Or perhaps the seal is, good does not remain. Or, I must struggle alone. Or, I am not the one who is chosen. The individual thoughts are letters. The underlying identity is the seal appearing upon every one. When you change the seal, you do not need to fight each letter separately. The entire correspondence begins to carry another authority. This is why changing self-concept is more powerful than correcting every isolated thought. If you believe yourself unsupported, the mind will produce endless examples of danger. You may answer one, and another will appear. If you accept yourself as supported, the mind gradually begins arranging thought around support. It notices resources, remembers abilities, accepts assistance, and interprets uncertainty with less fear. The contents of thought change because the sender has changed. You are the sender. The world is the field through which the order becomes visible. Consider the person who asks for abundance. They may speak sincerely. They may say each morning that supply is increasing. They may imagine a larger income, a secure home, or a life free from constant pressure. Yet before opening a letter, the stomach tightens. Before spending even a small amount, the mind predicts regret. When another person prospers, something within whispers, that kind of ease belongs to them, not to me. When help is offered, pride refuses it, because receiving feels unsafe. When an opportunity appears, Fear examines everything that could fail. Then the person says, I have been asking for abundance, but life has not answered. Life has answered. It has answered the emotional position that said, resources are uncertain, receiving is dangerous, and I must remain prepared for lack. This is not punishment. The world is not teaching a moral lesson through poverty. It is reflecting the inner relationship to supply. The visible amount is one expression. The psychological position is the deeper cause. To change the answer, you do not begin by shouting louder about money. You begin by altering your relation to support. Perhaps the first new instruction is not, I possess a fortune. Perhaps it is simply, I am not abandoned by supply. Feel how different this is from fighting an empty balance. It does not ask you to deny what must be addressed. It removes the total verdict from the condition. An obligation exists, but abandonment is no longer the meaning. A resource has not yet appeared, but impossibility is no longer the seal. A door is not visible, but there may be doors beyond the present field of vision. This is how the new order begins. It begins as a change in what you consent to call natural. The former self called pressure natural. The new self begins allowing support to become natural. Not dramatic abundance at first. Support. Enough room to breathe. Enough intelligence for the next movement. Enough openness to recognize an unexpected channel. Enough dignity to receive. The seal changes before the full contents of the outer letter change. Then life begins answering differently. Perhaps the first response is an idea. Perhaps it is the willingness to examine something you once avoided. Perhaps someone remembers an obligation owed to you. Perhaps an arrangement changes. Perhaps you find that the same figures no longer paralyze you, and therefore you make a clearer decision. Do not separate these movements from the law. The response may travel through your own changed mind. You are part of the field that responds. Consider the person asking for affection. They may imagine warmth, companionship, and a voice speaking kindly in the evening. They may say, I am loved. Yet inwardly they keep watch. A delay becomes rejection. A quiet mood becomes loss of interest. A disagreement becomes the beginning of abandonment. A loving gesture is received for a moment, then examined for hidden danger. The person wants love, but has prepared consciousness to detect departure. The request says, come close. The emotional seal says, closeness is temporary. Then life answers the seal. The person may unconsciously question, test, withdraw, pursue, or demand reassurance. The other person responds to this atmosphere. Even genuine affection becomes difficult to receive because the inner position does not recognize safety. Again, I do not say this to place blame upon the person who longs for love. The expectation may have been formed through real pain. Someone may have broken trust. Someone may have withdrawn without explanation. Someone may have treated tenderness as a thing to grant and remove. The heart learned to listen for departure, because departure once arrived. But a learned vigilance is not an eternal identity. It may be thanked for its service and released from command. You may say to the watchful part within you, I understand why you stand at the window. You have watched the road for a long time. You believed that seeing the departure early would make it hurt less. But you may leave the window now. Love does not require you to remain a guard. Let the inner room become quiet. The new seal may begin with this. I do not prepare for abandonment. Notice that this does not command one person to remain. It changes the emotional order carried into every relationship. You no longer treat affection as a visitor already preparing to leave. You no longer turn silence into prophecy. You no longer place another person upon the throne of your worth. The relationship may still require honesty, wisdom, and discernment. You may need to speak, decide, or step away from what does not honor you. But you do so as one who is loved in being, not as one begging a particular person to create love for you. The new seal says, love is safe enough to receive. Dignity is natural. Mutual care is natural. I do not chase evidence of my own worth. When that emotional authority changes, your experience of others must begin to change. Some relationships may soften. Some may reveal that they cannot express the new state. New connections may become visible. Your own speech becomes different. Your standards become clearer. You no longer cling to crumbs because the state of being loved does not recognize crumbs as a feast. The world answers the seal. Consider the person asking for freedom. They may dream of another place, another occupation, another rhythm of life. They speak often of change, yet every description of themselves begins with the prison. I cannot leave because of this. I cannot begin because of that. People like me do not get another chance. It is too late. I have too many responsibilities. I have made too many mistakes. The conscious desire says freedom. The emotional seal authorizes confinement. Then every possibility is examined through the identity of one who cannot move. A path appears and is dismissed. An invitation appears and is called impractical. A small opening appears and is ignored because it does not resemble the complete escape imagined. The person waits for a grand rescue while continuing to call themselves trapped. Again, the world is not refusing freedom. It is answering the identity from which freedom is being requested. The first act of freedom may not be a physical departure. It may be the withdrawal of the word I from confinement. The circumstance may still exist, but you cease to say, "This is what I am." You may say, "This is where I presently stand," but it is not the boundary of my being. Feel the difference. One sentence is a sealed prison. The other is a temporary location. A prisoner believes every wall possesses final authority. A traveler may rest within the same walls for one night, while knowing that the road continues. The physical picture may appear similar. The inner order is entirely different. From the traveler's state, the next movement becomes imaginable. From the prisoner's state, every movement appears impossible. The new seal does not deny responsibility. It says responsibility does not cancel possibility. It does not deny time. It says time is not the author of being. It does not deny difficulty. It says difficulty does not have permission to become identity. You begin authorizing freedom inwardly. Life responds through impulses, courage, assistance, altered circumstances, and paths you could not see while confinement was the only accepted state. This is how the answer changes. Not because the universe finally decides to favor you, because the order has changed. Consider how many times the outer request and the emotional seal may have contradicted each other in ordinary matters. You ask for recognition but hide your voice because visibility feels dangerous. You ask for rest but feel guilty whenever the body becomes still. You ask for friendship but assume that others will find you burdensome. You ask for health while relating to the body only as an object to fear. You ask for purpose but continue describing your gifts as insignificant. You ask for a new beginning while treating age as a locked door. The request is sincere. The contradiction is also sincere. One part of consciousness desires the new state. Another part has learned that the new state is unsafe, unlikely, undeserved, or impossible. Do not declare war between these parts. A divided house is not healed by one room attacking another. Bring understanding. The fearful part does not need punishment. It needs another experience of meaning. Perhaps you have asked for recognition while fearing criticism. The old seal says, "If I am seen, I may be wounded." Do not force yourself into grand visibility while fear remains unaddressed. Begin with a new instruction. It is safe to let my value be known. Perhaps you have asked for rest while believing that usefulness is the price of love. The old seal says, "If I stop, I will no longer matter." Begin with another instruction. My worth does not disappear when I rest. Perhaps you have asked for companionship while believing that closeness requires the loss of self. The old seal says, "Intimacy is imprisonment." Begin again. I may be loved without abandoning myself. These statements are not yet the final decree we shall use later. They reveal how the emotional seal may be rewritten. The seal changes when fulfillment no longer appears dangerous to identity. Many desires remain at the door because a hidden conclusion fears what would happen if they entered. A person desires abundance, but fears becoming selfish. A person desires love, but fears losing independence. A person desires success, but fears criticism from those who knew them before. A person desires healing, but fears that without the condition, no one will care for them. A person desires freedom, but fears the responsibility that freedom brings. Then the conscious mind calls for the guest, while the emotional seal orders the door to remain closed. This is not hypocrisy. It is division, and division can be brought into awareness gently. Ask, what do I believe the fulfilled state would cost me? Do I believe prosperity would separate me from those I love? Do I believe love would make me vulnerable to destruction? Do I believe recognition would make me arrogant? Do I believe freedom would cause guilt? Do I believe peace would make me careless? Whatever answer comes, do not be ashamed. You have found part of the old order. Now it may be revised. Prosperity may deepen generosity. Love may coexist with dignity. Recognition may allow a gift to serve. Freedom may produce wiser responsibility. Peace may permit clearer action. The desired state does not need to betray your values. It may become the fuller expression of them. When the fear of fulfillment softens, the emotional seal becomes easier to change. You are no longer asking consciousness to welcome something it secretly believes will cause harm. You are creating agreement. This agreement is far more powerful than loud repetition. A person may repeat an affirmation 1,000 times while the hidden seal remains untouched. Another may recognize one old conclusion and release it with a sincere breath. The second movement may carry greater authority. Do not measure spiritual work by the quantity of words. Measure it by the change in natural expectation. What do you now feel is possible? What do you now permit to belong to you? What no longer feels necessary to fear? What interpretation have you stopped repeating? There the seal changes. The emotional seal is not always a strong feeling. Sometimes it is so familiar that it feels like no feeling at all. A man may say, "Of course nothing works for me," with no visible emotion. The sentence feels factual. A woman may say, "People always leave," with the calm certainty of one reciting the hour of the day. The absence of drama does not mean the assumption is weak. Naturalness is often quiet. This is why you must listen for what feels unquestioned. The unquestioned conclusion carries authority. You may become excited while imagining prosperity, but if lack remains unquestioned, lack is still the seal. You may feel warmth during a meditation on love, but if abandonment remains the automatic interpretation of silence, abandonment is still familiar authority. The work is not to create stronger excitement. The work is to question the old certainty. Who told you that this must always happen? Why should one chapter dictate the entire book? Why should another person's behavior become your permanent name? Why should the present number become a prophecy? Why should the years behind you decide the years ahead? These questions loosen the wax. The old seal begins to lift. You do not need to replace it immediately with a magnificent new belief. A small opening is enough. Perhaps support is possible. Perhaps love need not repeat the past. Perhaps the road is not closed. Perhaps I am not confined to the identity I have rehearsed. Perhaps may seem weak to the mind trained in declarations, but when the old state says impossible, perhaps is a revolution. It interrupts the sealed order. It introduces another possibility into consciousness. Then possibility may become willingness. Willingness may become acceptance. Acceptance may become naturalness. Naturalness becomes the new seal. This movement may occur quietly while you lie here. You do not need to complete every stage tonight. You need only stop confusing the old instruction with the voice of God. The old expectation was not divine judgment. It was a psychological habit. The old answer was not proof of unworthiness. It was correspondence. Life did not look at you and say, "You do not deserve support." It reflected a state in which support felt distant. Life did not say, "You are unlovable." It reflected a state trained to interpret experience through rejection. Life did not say, "You must remain trapped." It reflected a state that could not yet imagine identity beyond the circumstance. When you understand this, blame begins to dissolve. You no longer blame the world for being cruel. You no longer blame yourself for being defective. You see a lawful relationship between assumption and experience. Then you may work with law. The farmer does not hate the field because an unwanted plant appears. He understands that a seed was present. He does not insult the soil. He changes what is planted. Your consciousness has been fertile all along. It produced faithfully from seeds received through feeling, repetition, and identity. This fertility is not your enemy. It is the reason another harvest is possible. If consciousness were capable only of reproducing the past, there would be no freedom. But consciousness receives states. The state may change, therefore the harvest may change. Let this become reassuring, rather than frightening. You need not investigate every seed ever planted. You need not understand the origin of every belief. You do not need to spend the night wandering through all the corridors of memory. One new emotional authority can reorganize many old impressions. Suppose the new seal becomes, I am supported. This may touch money, work, health, relationships, decisions, and the future. The separate problems appear different, but many were arranged around one old conclusion. When the central conclusion changes, the rooms of experience begin receiving another light. Suppose the new seal becomes, I belong. This may change the way you enter conversations, accept affection, pursue opportunities, inhabit a home, and speak to yourself. One seal, many letters, one state, many expressions. This is why we are moving toward a short decree later in the night. The decree will not attempt to name every circumstance. It will speak to the settled authority beneath them. But before a new seal is placed, the old one must be recognized as a seal rather than truth itself. Tonight, you are seeing it. Perhaps the old seal says, I must remain in control, or everything will fall apart. Notice how many experiences this order can produce. You lie awake rehearsing tomorrow. You distrust assistance. You become exhausted by responsibilities that cannot be shared. You interpret uncertainty as danger. You ask for peace, but the seal continues authorizing vigilance. Life answers by presenting more conditions that appear to require control. Not because life wishes to torment you, because the state of control organizes attention around what must be controlled. Now imagine another seal. I am supported even when I do not see every movement. This does not mean you abandon wisdom. It means you stop using worry as a substitute for wisdom. You make the necessary plan and then rest. You speak the necessary word and then release the conversation. You take the available step without demanding the whole road. The state changes from control to trust. Then the world begins to reveal forms of support previously hidden by vigilance. Perhaps the old seal says, good is always followed by loss. This order can poison receiving. A joyful event arrives, and fear begins immediately. A relationship deepens, and you prepare for departure. Money comes, and you imagine its disappearance. Peace appears, and you call it the calm before trouble. You consciously ask for good, while the seal authorizes interruption. Again, perhaps this expectation was learned through painful changes. You do not need to mock the part that fears loss. Bring it another sentence. Good is allowed to remain long enough to become natural. Feel how gentle this is. You are not demanding permanence from every form. Forms change. You are permitting good itself to feel safe. Love may change expression without disappearing from being. Supply may move through many channels. One peaceful hour does not need to be ruined by fear of the next. You learn to receive good without immediately preparing its funeral. The emotional seal changes. Life answers. Perhaps the old seal says, I must earn everything through suffering. This order is praised by much of the world. People call exhaustion honorable and ease suspicious. They distrust gifts, reject assistance, and believe that pain proves worth. Then they ask why life remains difficult. The deeper instruction has declared that difficulty is the acceptable price of good. I do not tell you to abandon work, devotion, or discipline. I tell you that suffering is not a currency with which God must be paid. You may work from joy. You may serve from fullness. You may receive without first collapsing. You may allow intelligence, timing, cooperation, and grace to participate. The new seal may say, what comes through me need not destroy me. Or, I may be diligent without being burdened. Or simply, good does not require my exhaustion. These are permissions. Permission changes consciousness. Consciousness changes response. You may wonder how to know which emotional seal has governed a particular area of life. Observe your first inward movement before the conscious mind corrects it. When you imagine receiving, what happens first? Does the body open or tighten? Does the mind welcome or question? Does the scene feel like home, or like a place you will soon be asked to leave? When you think of the future, which conclusion arrives before you begin speaking positively? When someone offers kindness, do you receive it or search for its cost? When an opportunity appears, do you explore it or immediately explain why it cannot become yours? These first movements reveal familiarity, but do not treat them as verdicts. They are traces of the former order. You are observing what has been stamped repeatedly. Observation without identification begins loosening it. You may say, there is the old seal, not, there is my destiny. There is the expectation of rejection, not, I am rejected. There is the habit of anticipating loss, not, loss is inevitable. There is the old language of confinement, not, I am forever trapped. Language creates distance between awareness and state. The state becomes something you can see rather than the whole self through which you see. This is an important moment. When you can observe an assumption, you are already larger than it. The eye cannot be the object it sees. Awareness notices the state. Therefore, awareness may select another. Let this distinction become gentle enough for sleep. You do not need to wrestle with the old order. See it. Name it softly. Release the word I from it. That is an old instruction. It is not the instruction I choose tonight. Perhaps the mind asks, what if I still feel it? Feeling the old state does not require renewing allegiance to it. A former tenant may leave furniture behind. The presence of the chair does not mean the tenant still owns the house. An old emotional reaction may remain for a time. You can feel it without granting it authority. Fear may appear. You say, fear is present, but fear does not place the seal tonight. Sadness may appear. Sadness may be honored, but sadness does not write the final order. Uncertainty may appear. Uncertainty does not mean absence of support. The new state does not need to expel every human feeling before it can become active. It needs to become the conclusion to which you return. This is compassionate persistence. You do not shame yourself for an old reflex. You return the seal to the new authority. Imagine once more the written order. The paper represents the many words of your day. Some are hopeful, some are fearful, some are clear, some are confused. At the bottom is the place where the seal will be pressed. The seal is not pressed by every passing thought. It is pressed by the state accepted as the final emotional conclusion. What conclusion will you carry towards sleep? Not every detail. One conclusion. I am supported. I am safe to receive. I am not abandoned by life. The way is not closed. I belong within the good I desire. Or perhaps, the matter is held by an intelligence greater than my anxious planning. Choose the quality, not yet the perfect words. Feel which conclusion allows the body to rest. The correct seal for tonight is not the most impressive sentence. It is the one that reduces contradiction. If I possess everything I desire, causes the mind to fight. Do not make war. Begin nearer. I am no longer preparing for the worst. Perhaps that is honest. Perhaps the shoulders soften. Perhaps the chest releases slightly. That softening is not small. The emotional order has begun to change. If I am completely loved feels too distant, begin with this. Love is not forbidden to me. Or, I am willing to stop calling myself unlovable. The door opens. If I am financially free produces panic. Begin here. I am willing to believe that support can reach me through ways I do not yet see. The sealed order becomes less absolute. Naturalness is built through truthful entrance. You do not need to leap into a state through violence. You may cross its threshold softly. The deeper mind responds to what you can accept, not to what you can shout. This is why the same phrase may carry different authority in different people. One speaks it as a decorative request. Another speaks it with emotional permission. The words are the same. The seal is different. Tonight, as you listen, I am not merely giving you new phrases. I am helping you recognize the authority beneath phrases. When the decree comes later, you will not treat it as a charm. You will understand that the words express an order already accepted within. The decree does not persuade life. It reveals that consciousness has become decided. And once consciousness is decided, life begins arranging correspondence. The messenger carries the sealed order. People move, ideas arise, opportunities become visible, old arrangements lose their hold. Natural impulses lead toward the bridge. Some responses occur within you first. Others appear around you, but the order has changed. Now let the body become quieter as this understanding deepens. The forehead does not need to examine every old instruction. The jaw does not need to confess every contradiction. The shoulders do not need to carry guilt for what was unconsciously learned. There is no accusation in this room, only recognition. You did not fail the law. You used it without knowing the instruction you were giving. The law did not fail you. It reproduced the deeper state. Now you begin using it consciously. Let this remove the old bitterness. You do not need to feel betrayed by life. Life was reflecting an order. You do not need to feel betrayed by yourself. The order was learned. You are not trapped by what was learned. Awareness can learn again. You may have spent years sending requests sealed by fear. One night of another seal may not immediately erase every outer consequence, but it begins another cause. Do not measure the new order by the speed with which the old correspondence disappears. A great ship changes direction before the distant shoreline appears different. At first, the water around it may look the same. The compass has changed. The course has changed. Remain with the new course. The old shore is no longer the destination. The emotional seal is the compass of consciousness. It tells every thought where home lies. When the seal is lack, thought travels toward evidence of lack. When the seal is support, thought begins finding paths toward support. When the seal is abandonment, thought studies every departure. When the seal is belonging, thought becomes able to recognize welcome. When the seal is confinement, thought explains why movement is impossible. When the seal is freedom, thought notices the next available step. The state does not merely attract circumstances as though objects were flying toward a magnet from nowhere. It reorganizes perception, meaning, action, relationship, and the sequence of incidents through which circumstances take form. This is a living law. You are not a passive object waiting beneath the sky. You are the consciousness through which the field is experienced and moved. The response comes around you and through you. A person who feels supported speaks differently during a conversation. They ask more clearly. They receive more naturally. They do not reject an opening because it arrives humbly. A person who feels loved does not need to test affection until it breaks. They can listen, express, choose, and remain dignified. A person who feels free recognizes that one step is still movement. They do not demand that the entire road appear before leaving the old identity. The changed state becomes visible in behavior without being reduced to behavior. The action is the fruit. The state is the root. You have been trying to change the fruit while an old seal remained upon the root. Tonight we turn inward, not forever inward, not away from practical life, inward to cause, so that outward action may become coherent. You may attend to what must be attended to tomorrow, but you need not attend as the person who has already accepted defeat. You may open the letter as one who is supported. You may speak with the person as one who knows dignity. You may consider the opportunity as one who belongs within possibility. You may take the next step as one who does not need the whole bridge. This is how the new order becomes embodied. Perhaps you now recognize that many of your prayers were not unanswered. They were answered according to the emotional seal. You prayed, "Please let nothing go wrong," while imagining everything that could. Life answered the image of danger. You prayed, "Please do not let them leave," while feeling departure as already present. Life answered the state of abandonment. You prayed, "Help me escape," while continually saying there is no path. Life answered confinement. Do not grieve over this recognition. It is not proof that you created every painful event intentionally or that every hardship can be reduced to one thought. Life contains complexities, other people, inherited conditions, and events no person should use to condemn themselves. The useful truth is not, "I must blame myself for everything." The useful truth is, "I possess authority over the state from which I meet and continue experience. You may not have chosen the first wound. You may choose whether the wound becomes the permanent seal. You may not have chosen another person's act. You may choose whether their act writes your identity. You may not have chosen every circumstance. You may choose what conclusion you carry forward from it. This is authority without cruelty, responsibility without shame. The law becomes a means of liberation, not accusation. Never use this teaching to tell the hurting person that they deserved their pain. Use it to tell them that pain does not possess the final word. Never use the law to make fear afraid of itself. Use it to show that fear is a state, not a god. Never turn imagination into a court in which every sorrow becomes evidence against you. Turn imagination into the place where another ending may be accepted. You are not here to prosecute the former self. You are here to issue another order. Let the old seal be lifted with compassion. Perhaps it protected you once. Perhaps expectation of disappointment seemed to prevent surprise. Perhaps emotional distance seemed to prevent hurt. Perhaps scarcity thinking seemed to keep you cautious. Perhaps control seemed to keep life from becoming chaotic. Thank these states for what they tried to do. Then say, you are no longer authorized to write the future. Feel the dignity of this, not hatred, authority. The old state may remain in the room for a while, but it no longer sits at the desk. It no longer signs the letter. It no longer presses the seal. Awareness has returned to the chair. You choose the order now. Before choosing, let silence enter. You do not need to fill it quickly. The old instruction may be complete. The new instruction may begin as a feeling too quiet for words. Perhaps it feels like the relief of no longer expecting disaster. Perhaps like the warmth of not calling yourself abandoned. Perhaps like the spaciousness of admitting there may be another way. Let the feeling remain. Do not interrogate it. A guest questioned at the door may not feel welcome. Let this new atmosphere enter without demanding that it prove the whole future. A few seconds of being supported are meaningful. A moment without rejection is meaningful. A breath free from confinement is meaningful. These moments place new wax upon the page. The decree later will press the seal clearly. For now, the wax is becoming warm and receptive. You are preparing to authorize another answer. Life has been responding. It responds now. Even this recognition is a response. The old assumption said, I am powerless before the answer. The new understanding says, the answer corresponds to a state, and a state may change. Something has already moved. Do not look outside for proof. The hearer has changed position. You now understand that the request is not the whole message. Desire is not the whole message. Words are not the whole message. The emotional seal completes the order. Let your seal become conscious. What would you authorize tonight if you knew you did not need to persuade the world? Would you authorize support? Would you authorize belonging? Would you authorize movement? Would you authorize peace? Not by commanding events in detail, by accepting the identity from which these qualities are natural. The order may say, I am one who is met by support, or I am one for whom love and dignity agree, or I am one who can move beyond the former condition, or I am one who rests without expecting punishment. The exact wording will come later. Feel the nature of the order first. It is not desperate. It does not beg the messenger to hurry. It does not ask whether the king will approve. It bears authority because the source of the seal is within. The messenger departs. The order moves through unseen rooms. Doors open. Arrangements begin. You do not run behind the messenger asking whether the letter is still being carried. You trust the seal. This is the rest we are approaching. Once the order is sealed, the mind may stop rewriting it every hour. The old habit may attempt to send another letter. It may say, perhaps nothing will happen. You do not need to destroy the letter. You simply do not place your seal upon it. A thought without your emotional authority may pass without becoming command. This understanding frees you from being frightened by doubt. Doubt may write. Fear may write. Memory may write. But awareness chooses what is authorized. Let many unsigned letters remain upon the table. They have no official seal. They need not be delivered. You choose one order. You authorize one state. Then you rest. This is what it means to become deliberate in consciousness. not controlling every mental movement, selecting what receives identity. The word I is the seal. Be careful what you join to it, but do not become afraid. You may withdraw it. You have said, I am trapped. Now you may say, confinement is a condition I am observing, not my being. You have said, I am unwanted. Now you may say, rejection is a memory I have carried, not my sacred name. You have said, I am poor. Now you may say, lack is a state I have known, not the limit of supply. The seal lifts. Awareness is free again. I am. Before the old order, I am. Before the learned expectation, I am. Before the answer that repeated, I am. From this pure being, another seal may be chosen. Rest here. There is no need to rush. The old answer has been understood. It was not silence. It was correspondence. The conscious request spoke one language. The emotional seal spoke another. Life followed the authority beneath the words. Now the authority returns to you. Not to the personality trying to control every event. To awareness capable of selecting a state. You will soon learn to place the seal deliberately. The words will be few. The feeling will be settled. The order will not describe every step. It will establish who you are, while the steps unfold. Until then, let the former correspondence lose its mystery. You no longer need to ask why the same answer returned. A familiar state kept signing the order. You no longer need to call yourself unlucky. A learned expectation kept authorizing the same meaning. You no longer need to believe the world refused to hear. The world heard more deeply than the conscious request. It heard identity. And because identity may be selected anew, another answer is already possible. Let that possibility feel gentle. There is nothing to repair through force tonight. There is only a seal to change. The lips may become quiet. The old letter may remain unsigned. The deeper state may become clear. You are not condemned by former orders. You are the authority capable of ending them. Life has been answering you. Now you are learning to speak from the place life answers, not the place of pleading, not the place of frightened desire, not the place of words contradicted by expectation, the place of identity, the place of emotional consent, the place where I am becomes the seal. Rest there. The former answer is no longer mysterious. The former seal is no longer sacred. It was learned. It may be released. And when another state receives your quiet authority, life will not need to be persuaded to answer differently. It will receive the new order. It will recognize the new seal. And in its own natural sequence, it will begin to correspond. And now we come to the place where struggle grows quiet. Not because every visible circumstance has already completed its movement. Not because every question has been answered in the manner the reasoning mind expected. Not because you conquered some power outside yourself and forced it to obey. Nothing outside needed to be defeated. The universe was never your enemy. Life was not standing against you with closed hands. It was not withholding good in order to test your strength. It was not waiting for you to discover a more forceful prayer, a more complicated method, or a more impressive declaration. The conflict was nearer. The desire moved in one direction, while identity moved in another. One part of you asked for support, while another prepared to remain unsupported. One part asked for love, while another listened for rejection. One part asked for freedom, while another continued to speak from the prison. The request said yes. The habitual state said no. The conscious voice called for a new answer, while the deeper emotional verdict continued authorizing the old one. That contradiction created the appearance of resistance. It made life seem stubborn. It made the universe seem distant. It made you believe that greater effort was required. But the struggle was never between you and life. It was between the state you desired and the state you repeatedly called yourself. Tonight, that struggle may end, not through violence, not through another argument, not through the punishment of every doubtful thought. It ends because the old identity is no longer required to oppose the desire. The one asking and the one being may become one. You no longer ask for support as the abandoned one. You rest as the one who is supported. You no longer ask for love as the rejected one. You rest within belonging. You no longer ask for freedom while naming yourself trapped. You withdraw the sacred name from confinement, and let freedom become the state from which you look. The two directions become one direction. The divided command becomes a settled instruction. And when consciousness becomes settled, response is no longer something you must drag toward yourself. It follows. You do not push the mirror. The face becomes still in another expression, and the reflection must agree. You do not chase the echo through the valley. The sound changes at its source, and another echo returns. You do not force the shadow across the floor. You turn within, and the shadow follows the movement. This is what the title of this night has truly meant. To force the universe to respond is not to overpower life with the violence of desire. It is to become inwardly unavailable to the old answer. It is to stop signing the old order. It is to stop placing the seal of identity upon the same expectation. It is to stop reopening a case that has been inwardly decided. It is to stop carrying yesterday's instructions into tonight's receptive silence. The force is not aggression. The force is consistency. The force is finality. The force is the quiet lawfulness of a state accepted so deeply that the former contradiction can no longer speak with the same authority. A river does not argue with its direction. A seed does not debate the pattern within it. The dawn does not persuade the darkness to leave. These things move according to what they are. And now you are learning to let life move according to what you have accepted yourself to be. The old self tried to make the world change so that it could finally rest. The new state rests, and from that rest, the world begins to change. The old self watched every hour for evidence. The new state understands that evidence belongs to expression, while the inward acceptance belongs to cause. The old self feared that releasing struggle would delay the answer. The new state sees that struggle was often the last loyalty given to the old answer. You may release it now. You have struggled long enough to know that struggle alone is not the law. You have asked enough to know that asking alone is not assumption. You have repeated enough words to know that words without identity are only sound. You have examined enough evidence to know that the senses can report the former state, but cannot select the next one for you. You have waited long enough to discover that waiting can itself become a home. Leave that home now, not by running, by ceasing to occupy it. You do not need to fight the walls. You do not need to destroy every memory of living there. You simply stop calling it I. The old state may still appear in thought. It may call your name. It may show you familiar pictures. It may ask you to return to the old conversation, the old calculation, the old fear, the old conclusion. You do not need to answer. A bell may continue ringing for a moment after the hand has left it. An echo may continue after the voice has become silent. An old state may continue presenting its effects after consciousness has withdrawn its deepest consent. Let the echo complete itself. Do not mistake the fading sound for a new command. The command has changed. It is settled within me, and life responds. You have heard these words before now, but let them carry their full meaning in this final passage. It is settled within me. The settlement is not in the bank, the letter, the face of another person, the visible door, or the arrangement of tomorrow. The settlement begins within. It is the end of the inner trial. It is the sealing of the new order. It is the closing of the old edition. It is the quiet recognition that you no longer need the outer world to give permission for you to occupy another state. It is settled within me, and life responds. Not because life has been threatened, not because the universe is afraid of your command. Life responds because correspondence is its nature. A state seeks expression. Identity shapes interpretation. Interpretation influences response. Response opens and closes paths. People meet another presence. Decisions arise from another center. Natural actions become visible. Unexpected arrangements become possible. The bridge forms through what you recognize and through what you cannot yet see. Life responds around you. Life responds through you, but you do not need to supervise the response. The architect does not stand beside every brick throughout the night. The captain does not lift the ship by staring at the sea. The seed does not inspect the soil. The state has been selected. The impression has been received. The bridge does not require your anxious observation. It is settled within me, and life responds. Let the words become a resting place rather than a duty. You do not need to repeat them with intensity. You do not need to hold them against fear like a weapon. You do not need to say them a certain number of times. Hear them once as an inward fact. It is settled within me. Allow the body to understand settlement. The forehead no longer needs to search for the answer. The jaw no longer needs to continue the argument. The shoulders no longer need to hold tomorrow in position. The hands no longer need to seize the means. The chest no longer needs to prepare for bad news. The abdomen no longer needs to guard against an unwritten future. The legs no longer need to run toward a state available now. The feet have reached the end of the day's road. It is settled within me, and life responds. Perhaps no dramatic feeling appears. This is well. Settlement may be quiet. A document signed in a silent room may change the legal meaning of an entire life. The pen moves only a little. The room remains still. Yet a former condition is ended. The inner signature may be just as subtle. A breath, a release, the absence of one familiar question, the willingness to let the night remain unexamined, a small conviction that you do not need to continue carrying the matter. Do not ask the feeling to become larger. Let it become natural. The decree is not a performance. It is recognition. It is settled. Life responds. The shorter words may now be enough. It is settled. Life responds. The old self might hear those words and immediately ask, how? Let the question pass. The bridge does not require supervision. The old self might ask, when? Let the clock continue without your assistance. The bridge does not require supervision. The old self might ask, through whom? Let the people involved retain their freedom of movement. The bridge does not require supervision. The old self may ask whether the state was felt perfectly. Perfection is not required. The direction is clear. The verdict has been given. The bridge does not require supervision. The old self may wonder whether one doubtful thought has undone the night. A passing thought is not the authority. The state to which you return is the authority. Return gently. It is settled. Life responds. You are not holding the decree. The decree may hold you. You are not carrying the state through the night by effort. Sleep may carry it into silence. The conscious mind may release the words. The feeling may remain without language. This is enough. Before we descend beyond all further explanation, those who are still awake may make one quiet outward mark of the inward decision. Write the words, "It is settled," below, not as a plea and not as a promise to struggle harder, but as a simple acknowledgement that the inner argument is complete. And subscribe so that each return to these teachings may remind you to return to the state rather than to the struggle. Now release even that small action. It is done. Nothing more is required. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. The decree has been received. The bridge does not require supervision. You are safe within the unseen movement. There is no new lesson to understand. There is no hidden step remaining. There is no final effort that must be made. The day is finished. Let it finish completely. Not every process, not every responsibility, not every road. The day, this day, it is finished. The conversations may rest. The papers may rest. The numbers may rest. The unanswered questions may rest. The names may rest. The faces may rest. The memories may rest. The imagined futures may rest. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. The instruction to remain alert. Let it rest. The instruction to expect disappointment. Let it rest. The instruction to prepare for abandonment. Let it rest. The instruction to carry everything alone. Let it rest. The instruction to prove your worth through exhaustion. Let it rest. The instruction to inspect every silence. Let it rest. The instruction to fear every delay. Let it rest. The instruction to repeat yesterday. Let it rest. The old instruction has spoken enough. It does not need to be destroyed. It does not need to be hated. It may simply rest. A tired servant may put down its burden. A watchman may leave the wall. A worker may extinguish the lamp. The old instruction may rest. The decree has been received, not by force, not through strain. Received, it is settled within me, and life responds. The words may grow softer. It is settled. Life responds, softer still, settled, responding. No effort, no reaching, no waiting at the window. The decree has been received. The deeper mind does not need your conscious attention now. You may forget the sentence. You may lose the sound. You may enter sleep before another word is spoken. The decree has been received. You have not planted it in a hostile ground. The deeper self is not your enemy. It is receptive. It receives the atmosphere. It receives the final emotional position. It receives relief. It receives completion. It receives the end of struggle. The decree has been received. The bridge does not require supervision. You do not need to follow the messenger. You do not need to inspect the road. You do not need to ask each person what part they will play. You do not need to arrange the sequence. The bridge does not require supervision. A thought may arise tomorrow. A door may become visible. A conversation may occur. An old arrangement may loosen. A new desire to act may feel natural. A period of quiet may continue while unseen pieces move. You do not need to determine which movement is the first response. The bridge does not require supervision. You may rest before the road is visible. You may sleep before the answer has a name. You may be supported before you know the channel. You may belong before another voice confirms it. You may be free before every wall disappears. The bridge does not require supervision. Let the conscious planner put down the map. The map was drawn from the present view. The bridge may pass beyond that view. Let the map rest. Let the planner rest. Let the question of means rest. The end contains its own road. The bridge does not require supervision. You are safe within the unseen movement. Not safe because every outer event has been promised to follow your preferred detail. Safe because you no longer need uncertainty to become abandonment. Safe because you are not the unanswered question. Safe because you are not the changing circumstance. Safe because being remains while conditions move. You are safe within the unseen movement. The world may move in ways the old self does not recognize immediately. Something may leave. Something may arrive. Something may pause. Something may be revealed. Something may become simple. Something you once chased may no longer feel necessary. Something you did not expect may begin serving the deeper desire. You are safe within the unseen movement. You do not need to name every movement good or bad while it is unfinished. Let the bridge remain a bridge. Let one step lead to the next. You are safe within the unseen movement. The bed supports the body. The earth supports the bed. The night supports the hours. The breath continues. The heart continues. Life continues. You are safe within the unseen movement. Nothing outside is being conquered now. No one is being compelled by violence. No power is being threatened. The contradiction has become quiet. The request and identity are no longer pulling in opposite directions. The one who desires and the one who accepts are becoming one. This is enough. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. The decree has been received. The bridge does not require supervision. You are safe within the unseen movement. Sleep may come. Let it come without being measured. You do not need to know when waking ends. You do not need to feel yourself crossing the threshold. The mind may follow one sentence and lose the next. This is welcome. Sleep may come. The forehead is quiet. The eyes have nothing more to inspect. The jaw has nothing more to defend. The shoulders have nothing more to prove. The arms do not need to reach. The hands do not need to hold. The chest may receive the night. The abdomen may release tomorrow. The hips may settle. The legs may become still. The feet may rest. Sleep may come. You are not abandoning the state by sleeping. Sleep carries the state into silence. The words become mood. The mood becomes impression. The impression sinks beneath conscious effort. Sleep carries the state into silence. The decree does not need to be repeated forever. It has been heard. It has been felt enough. It has been received. Sleep carries the state into silence. The old state may appear in a dream. Let it pass like an old scene playing in an empty theater. You do not need to awaken and correct it. Awareness remains greater than the scene. Sleep carries the state into silence. You may awaken during the night. No alarm. No failure. One quiet remembrance. It is settled. then return. Sleep carries the state into silence. You may not remember these words in the morning. The conscious mind does not need to remember every word. The state may reveal itself as a calmer first thought, a slower reaction, an unexpected willingness, a quiet refusal to return to the old argument. Sleep carries the state into silence. No more effort, no more examination, no more searching for the exact feeling, no more asking whether enough has been done. Enough has been done. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. The decree has been received. The bridge does not require supervision. You are safe within the unseen movement. It is settled. Life responds. The words may now become distant, settled, responding, quiet, held, safe, resting. No road to build, no door to force, no answer to chase, no world to overpower. Only the state, only the night, only being. I am. Before the old answer, I am. Before the visible response, I am. Before the bridge, I am. Before the morning, I am. I am. Supported, I am. Chosen, I am. Free, I am. At rest. No need to choose all the words. Let them fade. I am. Being remains. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. It may rest completely. The old voice may become softer. The old pictures may become dim. The old room may become distant. You do not need to close every door. Sleep may close them. You do not need to extinguish every lamp. Sleep may lower the lights. You do not need to dismiss every thought. Sleep may carry thought away. The decree has been received. It is settled within me, and life responds. You are not demanding a response now. You are resting in the state to which response belongs. You are not watching the mirror. You have softened the face. You are not calling into the valley. The inner sound has changed. You are not chasing the shadow. The source has turned. Life responds, quietly, naturally, through the seen, through the unseen, around you, through you. Life responds. The bridge does not require supervision. It may form while you sleep. It may form while you perform ordinary duties. It may form through words not yet spoken. It may form through decisions not yet imagined. It may form through a pause. It may form through movement. It may form through another person's natural choice. It may form through your own natural impulse. You do not need to know. The bridge does not require supervision. Leave it unseen. Leave it free. Leave it to the law of correspondence. Your work is complete for tonight. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. The decree has been received. The bridge does not require supervision. You are safe within the unseen movement. Sleep carries the state into silence. Sleep carries relief. Sleep carries the quiet verdict. Sleep carries the accepted identity. Sleep carries the state beyond words. No need to follow. No need to remember. No need to remain awake. Sleep carries the state into silence. The body is heavy. The mind is light. The night is wide. The room is safe enough. The future is unwritten. The old edition is closed. The new plate is set. The inner court is empty. The verdict remains. The sealed order rests upon the desk. The messenger has departed. You do not follow. Sleep carries the state into silence. It is settled. Life responds. It is settled. Life responds. The words become almost inaudible. It is settled. The state remains. Life responds. The words disappear. The state remains. Quiet. Rest. Silence. No struggle. No contradiction. No divided command. Only the state accepted. Only the inward settlement. Only the law moving in its own quiet way. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. The decree has been received. The bridge does not require supervision. You are safe within the unseen movement. Sleep carries the state into silence. You may let go now. Let go of the question. Let go of the clock. Let go of the scene. Let go of the decree itself. It has already entered. You may let go. The state is not lost when the words are lost. The seed is not lost when the soil covers it. The night does not erase the impression. It receives it. You may let go. Nothing must be held in the hands. Nothing must be held in the jaw. Nothing must be held in the chest. Nothing must be held in the mind. You may let go. The answer does not depend upon tension. The state does not depend upon sleeplessness. The bridge does not depend upon your observation. You may let go. It is settled. You may sleep. Life responds. You may sleep. The old instruction rests. You may sleep. The day is finished. You may sleep. The decree has been received. You may sleep. You are safe within the unseen movement. You may sleep. The voice may fade. The room may fade. The body may become distant. The words may become fragments. Settled, resting, held, quiet, safe, sleep. No more concepts, no more explanations, only this. The day is finished. The old instruction may rest. The decree has been received. The bridge does not require supervision. You are safe within the unseen movement. Sleep carries the state into silence. And when all words have disappeared, when the conscious mind no longer follows, when even the desire has become quiet, the accepted state remains in the depth of being. There is no need to overpower life. There is no need to push. There is no need to plead. There is no need to chase. There is no need to watch. The inner conflict has ended. The two directions are one. The request and identity agree. The decree is sealed. The night is quiet. Life responds. Sleep now. Sleep as the one who is supported. Sleep as the one who belongs. Sleep as the one who is free within. Sleep as the one who no longer carries the old verdict. Sleep as the one for whom the matter has become settled. Sleep without supervising tomorrow. Sleep without asking the world for permission. Sleep without holding the bridge. Sleep without forcing the mirror. Sleep without pursuing the echo. Sleep without fighting the shadow. Sleep in being. I am. Sleep. It is settled. Sleep. Life responds. Sleep. The day is finished. Sleep. The old instruction may rest. Sleep. The decree has been received. Sleep. The bridge does not require supervision. Sleep. You are safe within the unseen movement. Sleep carries the state into silence. Quiet now. Softer now. Deeper now. Nothing to do. Nothing to prove. Nothing to force. Nothing to earn. Nothing to supervise. The state is accepted. The decree is received. The bridge is free. The night holds you. The breath carries you. Sleep receives you. It is settled. And life responds. You never needed to overpower life. You needed only to become so inwardly settled that life could no longer return the old answer.